Hello and welcome to Too Fast, Too Forever. There's all kinds of family, we chose this one. This is episode 127, Strange Days from 1995. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
I'm Joe too, and this episode is brought to you by SquidCache.org. Squid is a fully featured HTTP 1.0 proxy, which is almost, but not quite, they're getting there, a fully featured HTTP 1.1 proxy. It offers rich access control, authorization, and a logging environment to develop web proxy and content serving applications. Shout out to SquidCache.
Shout out Squid Cash, and welcome to the Catherine Bigelow episode of Strange Days. I feel like we could probably do an entire lap around her movies because they're all like adjacent to our themes in one way or the other. But that's all coming up after the break. We are diving back into the past. When I wrote the summary for this, I'm like, we're going back. It's basically Back to the Future because we're going back in the past to watch the movie, but it's set in the future. But the future that is set in the past is also in the past. I don't know. You'll hear it after the break. Joe, extracurricular activities. What have you been up to since we last recorded?
Sports is back. Football's back, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Steelers played Monday night. Watched that. I was excited. Looked good. This is like first week jitters, no preseason and stuff, and I was that was a good night for me. So watched football all day Sunday. Watched some Red Zone. Oh, I didn't tell you what happened. So Red Zone was, I have Sling, right?
Yes. I think I've asked you this before, but do you get the red zone that I get with Scott Hansen, or you get this? Or we talked about this, I think, very briefly.
Yes,
but
I get the Scott Hansen one.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the other one sucks. Sling has Red Zone, and I have the sports package, right? And you have to add the sports package to get Red Zone, and that's the main thing that I add it for. Zach had mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, he's something about Red Zone not being on Sling. How are we watching Red Zone? And I was like, dude, it's on my Sling. He has my Sling. That's how we were watching it. And he's like, oh, but it's not on there anymore. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I realized NFL Network got into this fight with Sling, or DirecTV specifically,
Okay,
right?
yeah, DirecTV owns Sling, right?
Yeah, and they pulled NFL Network and Red Zone from Sling, and I just didn't notice because, I wasn't trying to watch it because the games hadn't started. So we start this Sunday, and I'm like, I need Red Zone, and I pay for the thing, and we don't have it. And Rachel's looking on Twitter, and she's like, Sling is just getting roasted right now. People are just raging at the Sling Twitter, saying how did you get rid of Red Zone? I'm gonna cancel my subscription right now. In 20 minutes, they somehow worked out a deal when Red Zone was back on Sling.
Yeah. I've had in the past where when I was living with my parents still, and they have Comcast, and we would pay for Red Zone, but it would be Sunday morning, and they have the countdown clock, but it's 12 o'clock, and
yes,
channel not authorized, and I'm like, we need to figure this out now. We have an hour, but I can't imagine just working in customer service is terrible already, but working in customer service in the hours leading up to kickoff in NFL Week 1 has got to be the worst because everybody assumes that they either have it or it works or whatever, and then while most of it probably does, there's probably a good amount where it's just oh no, this isn't working at all what I'm expecting.
Yeah, but this was the channel wasn't there. I had the package. Sling and Red Zone worked out a deal between kickoff and it coming out. Anyways, yeah, so I have Red Zone again. Sling has Red Zone again. The other thing is that we've just been watching more Love Island, which is just getting more chaotic. There's one girl that's a giant mess. She has ruined 2 relationships she was in now already, and everybody turned on her in the house, so that's enjoyable. That's pretty much it. Oh, I got Flat Tire.
What? Hold on, before we get to the Flat Tire, what? Who are you, me? What channel is Love Island on?
It's on CBS.
On regular CBS, Channel 2? No, I don't know. Is it Channel 2 for you?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you have Sling. It doesn't matter.
No, it's not on Sling. I have All Access. I have my friend's All Access.
Oh, they're rebranding that to Paramount Plus, right?
I saw Peacock Plus. Yeah.
No, not Peacock Plus. Paramount Plus.
I know.
Peacock's
I
a
know.
different
I
thing,
was
but
kidding.
Yeah. Whew.
Just the joke that everybody was the new branding system is just add a plus at the end of it, and that's your
yeah. Blame Apple. Wait, so Flat Tire, so who are you, Rachel and or me?
No, we were just we went to go get sandwiches for lunch, and I went up to this place right up the street, and we got sandwiches, and got them, we're driving home, and as I pull onto my street, it's only 5 minutes away, right? And as I pull onto my street, the tire pressure light kicks on, and I'm oh, cool, and it was the first cool day after it had been hot, we're starting to cool down here. And I was oh, it's probably, just the weather or whatever. And I pull into my driveway, and I hear like a loud hiss, and I was like, oh no, it is not just that. And so like I put my finger on it, and I could feel exactly where it was because it happened to be like on the top of the tire. I called my buddy down the street who's a mechanic that's like 5 minutes the other way, and I was like, look, like, I obviously can't drive this to you. Can you run down and grab the tire? And like I have like a jack and everything here. So like I just jacked the car up, ripped the tire off. He came and picked it up, plugged it, brought it back today, and put it back on. It's good.
I got so many, like I got a disproportionate amount of flat tires, but like exclusively when driving around locally. Like I had so many friends,
Yeah.
like, and I think we even talked about this where I don't drive a lot because I've worked from home for like the last 8 years, and I never drove a lot. But like the amount that I drove, I would get flat tires, and I'm not like a reckless driver, so it was just weird. But again, what you're saying, the ones closest to your heart are the ones that hurt you or whatever, right? Just like always, just
Yeah.
puddling around town.
It's like one street. Like I drove like right up the street and drove back, and like I must have hit like a nail clean because it was like I could put my finger on it. Like I felt the hole, right? But I don't know what happened, and it happened, and like it was like just enough that I couldn't even drive to him because I was like, oh, I don't want to drive on it flat, you know. I got home and the tire was fine, and like as we went out to go get the jack, the car was already like completely flat, like it was pancaked by the time we went outside. So
Yeah,
it was
well,
lucky.
fixed now.
Fixed now, all good.
Anything else of note or no?
That was about it. Just hanging out.
All right, I have three updates for you. Number one,
Cool.
fantasy
What?
baseball update. I told you already, made the finals. Whew!
Good job.
Stressful,
Congrats.
stressful weekend.
You were strung out for a little bit there.
I mean, and like the reward is I get to be stressed out for 2 more weeks, even though now, like, I am fully aware that I'm the underdog. Like, the guy that I'm facing, my friend Tom, is so clearly the best team in the league, which doesn't necessarily, like, it's hard to say because we weren't playing normally, but like, he has
Yeah.
Roto, like basically by every metric, he's the best team in the league. And so
Okay.
I'm not expected to win, but if I do, anything can happen in 2 weeks.
It'd be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like the way that we were doing it, as a reminder to everybody who's listening, because the baseball season is only 9 weeks, our regular season is 7, and then the finals are 2. We have 12 teams, and so it's not really fair to just randomly face 7 teams. Like, how is that fair to everybody? So
Yeah.
what we did is what I've dubbed the Power, or not, I didn't dub it, other people dubbed it, but the Power Joeys, where it's basically head to head versus every other team every week. And so it's kind of like Roto, but a little bit different, and it's just the way that we scored everything this year. The sample size is 132 times 7, which is 924 games. And the reason I bring that up is because at points this past weekend, I was within a game or tied with someone. So like on a sample size that
Ugh.
big, to be within
insane.
one game is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And because each sort of subset week is so tightly compacted, if somebody gets a save hold, like there's a stat called save holds, which is a combination of saves and holds. If a guy got one of those, my opponent got one, and that gave him like +4 wins, and I was like, oh no, like that's almost like an insurmountable thing to overcome. But luckily, one of my best guys, hit a home run on Sunday Night Baseball, just locked in the win for me, and
Nice.
so I am in the finals right now. So as this comes out, we'll be almost halfway home. But as we're recording, we're only 3 days in, and early returns are good, but there's still so much time left. So updates to come. But yeah, I made it, but whew, nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad for you. Good job.
Number two, you also know, the sequel to my favorite video game of all time, Spelunky, came out yesterday, this past Tuesday as we're
Yeah.
recording, on PS4. It's coming out on Steam in a couple weeks. Do you know the genre rogue-like?
Rogue-like?
Yeah.
No. What does this mean?
So there was a game called Rogue. I think this is how it behaved, and then this game Spelunky and a bunch of other ones took similar mechanics and created games around it and then created this whole genre. But what a roguelike is you go through a world, and essentially when you die, you get sent back to the beginning with nothing. You lose all your items, you lose all your progression.
It kind of sounds like the other games that like Zach would play. What were they? Like the Caveman one.
Like Demon
then
Souls
they-
and Dark Souls and stuff.
No, it was like this like really stupid game that they would like. You start out and you're like naked and you have nothing, and then you have to like pick up one
Oh,
thing. And
Ark.
if you get like Ark. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's not Ark. Ark saves. Like Ark, you never lose your progress, I don't think, or maybe you do. No, this is like they're generally speaking kind of retro graphics, just the aesthetic that this genre has chosen, because it's kind of a throwback to older days where video games were like brutal. I was so nervous. Like my one friend and I love Spelunky so much. Like it's probably both of our favorite
Yeah.
games. They announced the sequel like 3 years ago, and it kept just getting delayed, and it took forever to make because it's essentially one or two guys. There's a developer and a composer, and then a team around them, but it's not a very big team, and it just kept getting delayed. And then we're worried because how do you make a sequel to one of the like a thing that's like almost legitimately perfect? Like a lot of the reviews are saying nothing is perfect, but like if a video game is perfect, it's Spelunky. Like it's
Okay.
that good. Reviews started coming out of this on Monday, and they were glowing, and I was like, whew, thank God, exhale. And so it came out yesterday, and I've just been playing the hell out of it, and it is so wildly difficult and frustrating, but in all the best ways. And there's
Cool.
so much to explore. And I was saying to you briefly that it is the opposite in every way of the kind of game that Rachel would want to play or that you would want to watch. Like, I think it's fun to watch, but it's mostly fun to watch because the game is so cruel, but fair, but cruel in ways that you're just going to die a lot. Like, you think
And
you
you
have
start over
everything
from the
right.
beginning
Yes.
every time.
Every time. And you can open up
Fuck.
shortcuts and start the game later in the game, but to beat it, so in the original game, and I don't know how it works in the new one, there were 4 worlds, and at the end of the fourth world, you beat this one enemy, and after you beat him, it's essentially the final boss, and then you beat the game, right? But there's an actual way to beat the game where you have to go from the beginning and do a series of things, one on each world, and then that unlocks a fifth world called Hell, and you go through that, and then there's a different final boss, and that's how you actually really beat the game. And
Oh.
people didn't discover that for a while. Like there's items that have these hidden meanings and significance, whatever. There's a bunch of stuff to explore in the first game, and this game seems to be like 2 or 3 times bigger. It's crazy how much there is going on.
Hmm.
I'm sure that there are a lot of secrets decoded on the internet that I'm kind of
Don't want to
skimming
look at yet.
things, but for worlds that I've been to, like things that I
Yeah.
don't know about, I kind of want to keep pure and let the
Yeah.
mystery be for now. But like people are saying, how can you review games like this because it takes so long? But people are saying like I've played this for 40 hours and I beat it once. And like a run to beat it takes about 10 or 15 minutes. Like it's not a crazy thing, but it's just so difficult. Like I can't tell you
Sounds terrifying.
how many times I start a game and then I take a damage within like 3 or 4 seconds and I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna restart. Or like I just straight up die within 10 seconds. Just because I'm doing something stupid or the game, like one thing combos into another and I just get obliterated. So if anybody, I know that I was talking to Dan, our new video game correspondent, essentially, Dan the Duke Hayden, and he loved the first one, so he was gonna raise this one up.
Should Dan be the Resident Evil historian?
I like that. The Resident Evil
The
historian.
Resident
We
Evil
talked about this
historian.
last time. I still don't have a good way to describe this.
I know. I was just kidding.
I was talking to him, and he might do it, but I'm streaming on Twitch. I'm basically streaming on Twitch so like my sister can watch me play. I'm not going to become Twitch famous, but if anybody wants to watch me die a lot, it's twitch.tv/soul_popped. But it's so fun because it's so hard and I love it. And for something that I was so kind of looking forward to for it to deliver in such grand ways, I'm just so very happy.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I dig it.
My third thing, and this is a recommendation for everyone, including you, there is a show that originated on Adult Swim that is on HBO Max. It has 2 seasons. Episodes are 11 minutes each. Have you heard of the show Joe Pera Talks with You?
No.
It's difficult to describe. It is effectively like ASMR the show. It is kind of Mr. Rogers. It's kind of Review. It's kind of Nathan For You. It's a very gentle, kind, slow, weird show where this guy just talks to you about different things. Like he kind of has a TV show, but not
Hmm.
really. They're 11-minute episodes, and the first episode starts just called I think Joe Parrish shows you copper or Joe Parrish shows you iron or something, and he just starts the episode and he's just showing different rocks and there's a knock on the door and this family's like, hey, is now a good time? And they just come in and he sees that someone has put an open house for sale sign in his front yard. He's like, I guess I have to honor it. And then it just kind of goes from there. And it's just this weird,
Interesting.
because like you think it's going to be this like documentary, like is this guy with this weird affectation, this weird delivery going to just talk me to sleep every episode? And that kind of happens sometimes, but it's also just this weird but gentle and like in spite of or in the face of all of the absolute shit that goes on in the world, this is such a wonderful, relaxing, pleasant experience that's also genuinely funny and weird and like it's adult swim but it's also not really adult swim. Like a lot of the episodes are TV PG, so like that doesn't
Okay.
quite jive. But I recommend everyone, if you have, I think they're probably on adultswim.com or on HBO Max. There's 2 seasons. If you watch everything, it's probably like 4 hours in total. Like they're very short. It just
I'll
I
give one a shot for
can't
sure.
recommend. It's season one is a little bit more standalone. There's a little bit of continuity. Season two is better, and there's more continuity between episodes. But it's bizarre and just like, again, just pleasant and weird. It's I,
I dig
I
it.
think you'll like it, but I think everyone will like it. I don't know why somebody wouldn't, other than they're just like, this dude is weird. I don't know what's going on, right? But it's
Fair.
so. And actually, I want to give a shout out to, she doesn't listen, but past guest of the show, Jordan Pullen Clark, told me about this like a year ago, and then one of my friends in a different thread told me to watch it because he and his wife were watching it, and I was like, okay. The two recommendations, I jumped on board, and man, it's great. So we're all watching it now in our Tub Talk thread, but yeah, it's high
Cool.
recommendation for anybody and everyone. Joe Pera talks with you on HBO Max and Adult Swim.
I may give that a shot tonight. That sounds like a good thing.
I would say watch through, because again they're only 11 minutes. Watch through. There's one that's like he reads you the church announcements. Watch through that. Like that's episode 5 or 6, I think. Like spend an hour if you can. And if you're not sold by that point, I don't know that you're going to. But that is like the episode in season 1. It's just it's
Okay.
so good. So yeah,
Cool.
Joe Parrott talks with you. We have a Patreon page here on the show, toofast2forever.com. Shout out to Cassie Wilson, Jake Freer, Ben Milliman, Nick Burris, Alex Ellenin, Justin Kleinman, Brian Rodriguez of High School Slumber Party, Haley Gerbys, Wes Hampton, Christian Larson, Jerry Robinson, and Dan the Duke Hayden for supporting us at the
Thank you
$5 level
guys.
or above.
All of
Thank
you.
you all so much.
I appreciate you.
I realized I thought in the pinned post on Patreon we had the lap 8, 9, and 10, but I was talking to the iconic Brian High School Slumber Party Rodriguez, and he was like, "Where are the themes?" I was like, "I have to find the post," because he wanted to submit his lap 8 pick. So if you
Yeah.
have not sent them in, if you're not sure, if you don't remember what they are, just send me a note or tweet at us or Facebook or whatever, email, whatever.
Whatever. So many ways.
I'll send the things over to you. But yeah, lap 8 starts like in January, so lots of time, but also start thinking about it, you $10 a month patrons. And again, thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We also have an email address here on the show, family@cageclub.me. And Joe, we have 4 emails to go through tonight.
Okay.
2 are kind of themed. They're from 2 different people. So 2 from one person are about separate things, and then 2 are kind of themed. The first one of those from Alex Ellenin, quite literally a shower thought.
Ooh, I have lots of shower thoughts. I'm usually listening to Colin Coward, so they're sports thoughts. But yeah,
Listening to minute 85 of the Fast and Furious Minute. So I guess you're listening to Colin Coward, he's listening to us in the shower. All right.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Alex says, listen to minute 85 of the Fast and Furious Minute, and I thought, would the heists from the first movie be any easier if even one of them drove a pickup truck?
Yeah. Well, it might be easier to get Vince off the truck when he's first kind of tangled. But he's attached like by the arm, so I don't think it would really help that much. There would have to be in like a really small window where Dom would have had to be in the pickup truck in the beginning.
We've seen different heists and action scenes where people are effectively standing on hoods, right? Or
Yeah,
trunks or whatever.
that's what Vince does. He climbs out of the sunroof.
Yeah, but I think
I'm saying getting him back. That's
yeah, I
that's
think
what
once
I'm
he's
thinking
on there,
of.
I don't think it matters. I think you just need to get him off safely. I don't think having a bed, because it's like he could jump. It's just the fact that he's tied up, and I honestly don't like. I'm so I don't want to say invested in the minute, and we're gonna get to another minute here where like Vince is still not rescued, but I don't remember specifically how he comes unhooked because I've seen these minutes leading up to it so many times now that I'm like he's so wired up there. I don't know how you do it.
You're gonna be surprised when he comes down.
I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, right, okay, yeah. But like, if you offer me a lot of money right now, I'd be like, I don't remember.
Because the thing is, like, we focus so hard. Yeah, I do get surprised by some minutes. Like, some scene will change, and I'll be like, I totally forgot about this part.
Yeah,
Because, like, you're just so invested in everything that's been leading up to it.
probably the mount and dismount on a smooth heist would probably be a little bit easier with a pickup truck. But I think the maneuverability, like you couldn't do a Letty and drive under the truck if you're in a pickup truck.
Yeah, you definitely couldn't. So, like, I'm assuming Alex is talking about one pickup truck. Like, Dom has a pickup, and, like, Vince hops out that little back
Right.
window and just walks on the truck.
Yeah, he said
He'd
at
still
least
need
if at least one of them drove a pickup truck. So I'm assuming I don't think it would make.
Yeah.
Although that would be pretty funny to have like a fleet of pickup trucks heisting a truck, right? It's just like, oh, there's a
Yeah.
pickup truck gang. Like that's like a Smoking the Bandit feeling thing.
Yeah, yeah, right. But he still would have to shoot the grappling hook because the semi would still be higher than the bed of the pickup, right?
Yes.
So he'd still have that, and he would still get caught. And the caught part is getting down And I don't think it would really have helped him if somebody had a pickup truck.
Facing a shotgun, I feel like you're more exposed on a pickup truck. There's fewer places to hide, I would say. Not that there's
Dom
really.
has a better chance of getting shot because you're closer to eye level,
Yeah.
and because he like shoots down and like hits like Dom's hood, but Dom is like under him and he can't really view him as well. His line of sight's a little off.
I think there are definitely pros, but there are also cons. I feel like in the end, it's a net neutral. Plus, I think I think there it's. Although it would be pretty funny if it was the. I was gonna say it's like it's less conspicuous, but or maybe more. It would be more conspicuous. I don't know. It would be more obvious or whatever. But I was thinking, what if like one was the Racer's Edge pickup truck? Did they just like jack that?
Yes, yeah.
And then it's like, oh, is Harry robbing trucks now?
That would have been pretty awesome.
We know that Brian drives that truck to scout out Johnny Tran's thing, so I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't know. I don't know.
No.
Thank you, Alex. We're going to get more shower thoughts later.
Cool.
Next two emails are from Jerry Robinson. First up, Pineapple. It says, Hey fam, I love pineapple on pizza, especially with pepperoni, but I'm glad you guys like it. Sorry, Rachel.
Yeah, for her poor allergy. I totally forgot about it. When we were asking, I got so consumed with the pineapple on pizza idea. I've never had it with pepperoni. I think only with like ham or bacon.
Probably, I mean, you just need something like meaty, like something,
Umami
I guess,
to balance it. Yes.
something
I
to
agree.
cut the sweetness, right?
Oh, on that note, I had this dream last night. I was dreaming of Sicilian cuts of pizza from like this place like really close to my house in Pittsburgh.
Mmm.
And like I woke up just like dreaming of pizza and hungry at like 4 a.m. for Sicilian cuts of pizza.
Was it the last episode? Recently, you talked about how you woke up dreaming of like fried chicken or whatever, so you're just having food dreams.
It's comforting, right?
Yeah.
But like, and like, I'm like in the shit when I'm in these like food dreams. Like, I was like in this like garage. They were making all the pizzas. I was ordering. There was a whole bunch of slices. I was picking my slices, and I wake up and I'm like, I'm starving. Like Rachel makes us eat late, so it's not even like I'm like not like eating before bed or anything. It's like,
Weird, I don't know.
Yep.
Jerry says dead malls are fun, and before COVID, sometimes I'd drive up to a mall, grab some food, listen to some podcasts, and enjoy it. But one of my favorite spots just to kick it is in Pacifica at Taco Bell next to the beach. And guess what? They serve
ooh,
alcohol inside. So tacos
ooh.
and beer, which is always fine by me. Yeah, they have it. Like I think it's called the Cantina. There
The
are.
cantina.
Yeah.
We just got one in New Haven. Yep. Like in the past, like actually pretty much like right before COVID, like around like a year ago, we got a cantina finally, and you can get margaritas and Taco Bell there. But it's downtown, and so like Rachel and I never really go there because it's like downtown, and then you have to park. And if I
Yep.
was gonna be drinking there, then I have to come back, and I'm like, I'm not gonna take an Uber to go party at Taco Bell. So
The marketing heads effectively were on my boss's podcast, and what they're doing, they have just so many cool ideas, and they're just
for
like,
Taco Bell,
yeah, Taco Bell, like
yeah,
they know that they're, I don't want to say it's like a goofy brand, but they know that what they're doing can be fun, and they're doing a great job with it. And they had that pop-up. They had like a Taco Bell hotel for a weekend out in the desert back in the fall, I want to say. All the food on the menu, like everything you could order there, was from Taco Bell. I think it was like a resort package that you could buy for the weekend. Like it sold out immediately. But I think they were hosting weddings. Like it's just like this crazy thing. Like people, I mean, we've talked about like White Castle. Like I know that past guest and current patron Christian Larson has like an affinity. He and his wife have an affinity toward White Castle, like truly deeply. Where I think they were even considering. I don't know if they were considering getting married at one, but like it was playing like a very pivotal role at one point in like their nuptial planning.
planning.
I think. Larson, you
Okay.
can email in if that's wildly off base, but I think it's something in that ballpark. People have the same kind of mindset about Taco Bell.
People do love Taco Bell. They do. I remember like the story of like the Doritos Locos Taco, and they were saying like they wanted to do it, and it was like this like huge deal. The Doritos exec, like the lawyers for like both, were like sitting together and like talking and stuff. Like, and like the executive was just like, dude, we need to make these fucking tacos. And like the Doritos exec was like, I know, it's a good idea. And they're like both like, okay, cool. And they were just like shook hands, and they're just like, we're doing it. Like there's no like we're not even like going through the legal bullshit. Like we're gonna do it. You guys work this out. It's done. It's a done deal. Because like they know the brand is fun, and it's the cool ideas like that I like too. I do like Taco Bell.
I haven't had Taco Bell tacos in a while because there's just better options. But their breakfast, like the what's it called?
Everybody says this. I never had
The
it.
crunch wrap, bacon or the sausage crunch wrap with a side, which is either the hash brown or cinnabon, and a drink, which I get like iced coffee, is $5. Like it's a good. I feel like for breakfast, pretty good value.
For
And it
any
tastes
time
good.
of the day. Dude, you could go to Taco Bell. Like, you could be, like, wasted. You go to Taco Bell. You order everything you can imagine. It's, like, $23. That's like, and you're like, you come home, you're like, oh fuck, I have all this Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Like I got
Yeah.
all this food. Remember who held you down before there was Chipotle?
Jerry goes on, Ileana and I applied for a new place, has been approved. We can move in mid-November, so we're excited and nervous. So far, that's all I got. I'm nervous
Congrats.
and excited at the same time. Be fast and not last.
Congrats. Good luck. I'm sorry we had to help you move for beer and pizza with pineapples, but you're a little far, bud.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we can borrow Alex's imaginary truck for the heist, and we would have come help you move.
I guess teleportation would also work, but time travel or something. We need more future tech in the Fast and Furious so we can get out there, right? So yeah.
Why don't you? Why do you need that when you just need like a mass mover, like a gun that'd be like, bzz, bzz, and you could just like, if we could just like send him the teleporting gun, and he could just move all of his furniture in one by one.
Well, I'm just
Really
trying to, I
easy.
guess so. Yeah, I guess that would also fit. I was just trying to think of things that would exist in the world for our family to use, but they could use that for something, right? Like a heist or something, right? So,
Remember like that time when the Cisco Thong Song music video came out, and those like hovercrafts were like a thing in music videos for a little bit. Like, I'm surprised we haven't seen one of those in a Fast and the Furious. You know what I'm talking about?
maybe?
It looks like a pontoon boat. It would be like a rubbery thing around the outside, and it would like hover on like the ground, and you could like skate across the ground on it. It didn't have wheels or anything. Do you remember this?
Not vaguely,
Okay, never mind.
vaguely. I would, if I saw it, I would probably remember, but I can't. I'm having a hard time picturing it just thinking about it.
Let me see. Thong song hover
While you look that up, I will
craft.
say next email from Jerry, car pick explained. He says, "Hey guys, you finally did Ileana's car pick." She listened, and was like, "Oh my god, they did it!" But Lucifer isn't from DC. It's from one of her favorite Netflix shows called Lucifer, hilarious
Ah.
crime-solving kind of religious series. Well, I looked it up to confirm. It is. That is. It's the same show. It was a DC
Oh.
comic that they adapted to the CW, got canceled, and Netflix picked it up. So unless Netflix has two different shows called
Ah.
Lucifer, which I cannot imagine is the case, same show. So it originated with DC. It's the same. It's Vertigo. Like it's not a DC like a Superman DC, but it's still the same DC's independent publishing line. So plus, I mean,
Yeah.
we had that comic book expert on Nico himself, right? Like it's if anybody knows, it's gonna be him. So
Yeah, he seriously does know a fuck ton about comic books. Like,
same
that's
show,
not
bud.
a
Same
talk.
show. Lucifer.
Do you see the hovercraft thing that I'm talking about? I
Let me
sent it
take a
to you in
look.
Discord. Do you
Oh
remember this
yes,
thing?
yes, 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 yes.
I'm surprised somebody hasn't had one of these. Like, Tej didn't make one of these guys yet.
Feels like outdated. I guess they could soup it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one of these? There was something like this in Spy Racers.
Was there?
I think in the first episode, don't they like jack a boat?
But this is like specifically like a hover craft. Like it like floats up, and Cisco like drove one on the beach or something in the Thong Song
I
video.
want to say that there is something, I don't know that is this, but it's closer to this than anything we've ever had. Aside from maybe the jet ski races in 2, but like that's not really main to the story, but I think in the first episode, like when we're introduced to the villains in Spy Racers, I think there's something like this. We'll find out later this lab. We're going to do Spy Racers
I
with
was
Nico and
gonna
Kevo,
say
but
we'll have to see it.
thank you, Jerry. And then our last email is also from Alex. Subject line: Shower thought strikes back.
The Revenge of Shower Thoughts.
Says talking about theories for the franchise going to space sent me on a tangent. Stay with me. What if the
Okay.
franchise actually ended after Tokyo Drift and everything since is just random sequels that some genius exec was like, no, that doesn't work, but what's the easiest way to make a profit on the script? Add some car stuff and put it in the Fast and Furious. Done.
So they're all
He
sequels.
says, so like Fast 5 was just the Brazilian job. What if
Yeah.
F9 is just the Armageddon sequel? He says, no idea if that's a real thing. It was just my original thought. Says, then what do you guys think 4, 6, 7, and 8 were originally supposed to be?
Oh, that's a fun thought experiment.
So
Oh.
4 is kind of a gritty, like 4 kind of feels like a modern. Like Taylor Sheridan wrote like Hell or High Water. He did Sicario. I feel like a lot of his stuff. I mean, he also wrote and directed a movie called Wind River in Alaska. But I feel like a lot of his stuff is kind of modern crime, modern western. A lot of it taking place at the border between Mexico and the U.S. I could see something like that, where it's kind of like a drug trafficking or something like. No, 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 it's just cars.
For 4, it might be like a Punisher movie or something.
Who would be the Punisher?
Dom it feels like a dark like DC kind of like, or like a dark Marvel movie, right? Because it's like, but like somebody that doesn't have like superpowers, like maybe like a Daredevil or something like that, and they're just like, oh no, just add some car shit in, and like this is what you get. They're like trying to break up a drug ring. That's how I was kind of thinking, like Punisher, like he's a cop kind
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like
of.
that's why I was saying Taylor Sheridan, like a kind of a cartel Mexican vibe. I don't know. I don't know that it's a superhero thing because I feel, especially if we're looking at the franchise as a whole, compared to later in the franchise, 4 is pedestrian in terms of superpowers, right? Like if we're gonna
Exactly.
if we're
That's what
gonna
I'm
enter
saying.
the
So yeah,
superhero ring, it's gonna be later, I think, in the franchise.
some guy that doesn't have actual powers, like a la Batman, right? Like somebody that has just like tech and like is gritty and dark. What about six?
6, 7, 8. So what's at its
Six is
core?
Con Air,
No, I don't think so.
but with the airplane. I was trying to think of like a good
But
airplane
the airplane's like almost
chaos.
irrelevant to most of 6.
But you just write the pre-story to get you to that part, right?
Like, what is 6 about? 6 is about a rival crew, or
Yeah.
just a villainous group of people stealing tech. I mean, it's all stealing tech now. I think maybe a good way to go is based on where. Well, maybe not, because Italian Job went from wherever they were, California or whatever, to
Yeah. The
Brazil.
place doesn't matter. We change places in movies all the time. I think the focus has to be on like a mirrored crew, right? Like you fight the evil versions of yourself.
So in that regard, it could be anything. What's the actual? Hold on, let me read what the plot summary is to 6. I feel like we're so in the weeds. Hobbs has Dominic and Brian reassemble their crew to take down a team of mercenaries. Dominic unexpectedly gets convoluted, also facing his presumed deceased girlfriend Letty. That is a terrible write-up. Jesus Christ, Letterboxd. Hold on.
Yeah.
It almost feels more like if Rambo was like a group thing, where it's just like, oh, they're the bad guys now.
Yeah. So I'm going Con Air. It's the sequel to Con Air, but with cars and shit.
Okay, so 7 is a revenge
7.
story. The whole description is Deckard Shaw seeks revenge against Dominic Toretto and his family for his comatose brother. Which,
Yes.
sure, but also, what?
Who seeks revenge for their brother in a movie?
It would be like a sequel to a movie where, like, the hero not dies, but, like, almost dies, right? Where somebody gets their ass kicked, and then it's a
Yeah.
new character who's introduced who's like, no, I'm here to mess you up.
Come on, man, you got the movie knowledge. Give me some something to play with. Give me a direction here.
If you have like a franchise like Mission Impossible, like they would just make a Mission Impossible sequel, right? So like it wouldn't be that. Like I don't think they would repurpose that. I'm looking at the box office for the 2000s and
Okay.
the 2010s. Like we need kind of like standalone.
No, I don't even think so, dude. It doesn't because yeah.
Well, because if you think
Okay.
about like Italian Job was a standalone movie that they were going to do a sequel to, they scrapped the sequel. Like that's the premise of what Alex is asking. It's like what
Yeah,
is a movie that would have had a sequel? Like where? Oh, that's God. The 2000s. It's all fucking sequels, man. It's all sequels.
it has been for 2 decades now.
This is impossible to look at. I don't know
8 is the sequel to The Wizard of Oz
why.
because it's like the man in the sky and you have to fight them and what's behind the mirror.
I was thinking something like Hackers or something like tech oriented, where they're going bigger or whatever. That there's a new villain in town.
There's no tech in Wizard of Oz. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Well, I mean, it's
And you have a bumbly crew, but I didn't account for the missing baby. Toto. There you go. It's the sequel to Wizard of Oz.
this is hard. I'm not good at this.
We might have to. We'll revisit. Give us some time to think on it. Seriously, on the spot, it was a little difficult.
Alex says, by the way, I loved Tenet. I thought it was better than Interstellar and possibly Inception. Could also be some rose-colored glasses. The last time I was in a theater was Birds of Prey, and it just felt good to be back.
Nice. I haven't seen Tenet yet. I'm waiting. Did you say it? Did you watch it?
I'm not going to the movies until there's a vaccine.
I didn't know if it came out on VOD or not. I was just like, I'm just waiting to watch it, and
No.
people have seen it. Yeah.
I mean,
It was in
Alex went.
theaters
I guess he
only.
went to the theater, or he went to a drive-in or
Yes.
something. My friend went to one. I was just like, "What? You went?" He's like, "I got back from the movies." I was like, "You went like to a theater?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What? Why? Like what?"
Yeah, I don't know, man. Okay.
I'm guessing it's gonna be out on VOD. Like it's not doing well, and it's making people
Obviously.
it's making people rethink everything, right? In terms of,
Yeah.
I got Alex's question on my brain, and I don't have a good answer for him. I'm gonna think about it some more, but it's tough. And also, he kind of copped out and didn't give any answers. So like, hit us with answers. And
Yeah.
like, I would rather have had him give some samples. Alex, this one's on you. My brain fart is on you. It was hard. It's a lot of work to put us on the spot like that, and I'd rather
It's okay, bud. I
workshop
got it.
the.
We'll workshop it.
Plus,
We'll
like
get back
it's
to you.
it's impossible to find movies that aren't part of a
Non-sequeled
franchise because
movies.
everything is
Yeah. Nowadays, yeah.
brutal. All right, that's all the emails. Family@cageclub.me if you want to email us, please and thank you.
Please.
I have one bit of news. Have you found any other news? And it's not even really news. It's kind of news, but
Nah.
in a second. So, okay, from our friend, not really a friend, Pajiba.com, which has
Okay.
hosted several of our past guests. Kristen
Yes.
Schaal. Do you know Kristen Schaal?
The name sounds familiar. Who is it?
What would you know her from? She was the weird groupie on Flight of the Conchords. She's the voice of Louise on Bob's Burgers. She's the voice of the Triceratops
Oh,
in
yeah,
Toy
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Story.
yeah. She like looks like Louise too. I know exactly who this
She
is.
was
Yeah.
in. She's actually plays George Carlin's daughter Kelly, Rufus's daughter Kelly, in the new Bill and Ted movie. So anyway, she calls out The Rock over political inaction.
What?
Donald Trump tweeted a thing where some of these yards just had like hundreds of Trump signs. And he says, "Wow, thank you."
Yes.
Someone, I think a journalist, said, "This is from 2016. He's tweeting about it again for some reason." So then Dave Bautista quote tweeted, our guy who has had issues before with The Rock.
The Fastiverse. Yeah.
Yes. Because he's desperate about Trump. He's lost, and all he has left are his very loud, very aggressive, very ignorant base, blah, 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 blah. Somebody replies to him and says, "Dave, you're in Florida, and Florida loves you. He can't win without Florida. What can you help him to win Florida?" I guess about Biden or whatever. And he says, "I wish I
Okay.
had an answer, but it would sure help if other Florida residents with much larger platforms would stop being so cowardly and take a stance."
Ooh,
So then
is he
Kristen,
throwing shots again?
but not by name. So then Kristen
Not
Schaal
by name.
says, she quote tweets and just says, "Are you talking about at The Rock? I'm also finding that
Whoa.
frustrating. I like him a lot, but he seems more interested in selling tequila right now."
Oh,
So then
jeez.
this article on Pajiba, this is sort of like a little bit of an elevated BuzzFeed, essentially, right? Like it's just like, hey, this is a
Yeah,
thing that
yeah,
happened
yeah.
on Twitter, right? So that's all this is.
Yep.
But then they talk
Yep.
about how he did that whole "Where are you" speech, never saying Trump's name, but like, "We need leadership," blah, blah, blah. He posted Black
Yes.
Lives Matter on Instagram. He's not doing more than that. The thinking is what we've said on here before, what we talked about with the Michael Jordan documentary, like Republicans buy shoes too, right? It's like, why would I want to
Yeah.
alienate half my base? But it's like, well, the country's literally on fire right now. People have never
Literally.
hated each other more. Things are going
Yep.
bad. Like, you can sell tequila to everybody, but like, let's fix the planet, right? Like, let's do
Yeah.
something.
I mean, The Rock's making an effort. What level of effort is the appropriate level of effort when he's doing things like also buying the XFL?
And this article also brings up the fact that people gave Taylor Swift a lot of shit. They're like, "You have such an impressionable young fan base who
Yeah.
respects you and admires you, and you being silent is not okay." In her documentary, the documentary that came out this year, which is great, by the way, it goes behind the scenes of her 2 years ago in the midterms saying, "You should vote for this one person." The person lost, but she like drove such an uptick in young
Fervor.
people.
Yeah.
No, in like in registration, in voting.
Yep.
Like the
Yep.
person lost, but she has also come out very strongly against Donald Trump too. So like him being like,
Rock
"Ooh,
the
I'm,
vote.
I'm not sure what to say, or I don't want to say the wrong thing." It's like one tweet is like really all you need. I mean, more would be better, but if he comes out and just says like, "This is not okay," or whatever,
Yeah.
where are you?
Yeah.
I'm calling you out, The Rock. Where are you?
It's a lot of gray area for me. He's not doing nothing. He's not purposely being silent. He supports the causes. How overtly supportive do you want him to be, and can you fault him for not giving a response
Yes.
that you want?
Yes. Being silent is complicit.
I get that being silent is complicit, but how loud do you have to be incomplicit?
Because I think specifically what her issue was is that because he has political aspirations, him being silent on this
Seemingly.
is not okay.
Seemingly, he has political aspirations. We don't know that, but
Well,
seemingly.
yes, yeah, well, yeah. If you become a politician after not having a history of politics, it's Trump or Kanye, or it's just like, what the fuck is even happening, right? Like, it's like this is just what our country's becoming, I guess. But like, if you have a history of like speaking on things, like letting people know where you stand, and like you can be a
Yeah.
Republican, but like you care about human beings, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
all right, Joe. The Ana Lucia Cortez, Leticia Ortiz lost for a minute the episode titled "Fire and Water," fire plus water,
Fire ass water.
fire as water. So, as expected, this is a Charlie episode, as we talked about last time, and there are trippy, unsettling flashbacks to his childhood pressures. What's weird, and like I know that we say this every time, there's big shit happening on the island. Like, the last episode said, "What's it going to take to build an army?" And then all we see of Jack and Anna is like them collecting water and talking about banging. It's like, okay, like I know that we
And
can't do
building
like
a tent.
ton of plot, but like, Give me something.
I really thought they were going to lead us into like preparing for a war at all, and it's like no, they just hang out in the woods now, and it's like okay, cool. Do they ever? Can you just answer me? Do they ever like answer the like? Did she like start to prepare an army? Do they?
Yeah,
I want them to let this
yes,
plot line go.
things happen. Yes.
I was really hoping that they just drop this. This is one of those things where he's like, we need to build an army,
If
and
in
then they're
between
like, okay,
episodes he's
cool.
like, "How long would it take?" She's like, "Nah, too long. You don't want to do it." He's like, "All right, cool. Like, you're probably right. We should just like collect water."
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too.
And like I know that the part of the issues, part of the difficulties in making a show like this is having it so that you have to tell stories about all 15 main characters, however many people like demand sort of central attention, right? Like you can't just be like,
Yes.
"Hey, Charlie's not in season 2," because it's like at some point if he's not in the show, like you might as well kill him off, right? Because it's like
Yep.
if you're not telling stories, why is he even around? So I know that you have to do that, but at the same time, I don't know, man. Like especially I think watching for what we're doing, but even independent of that, the most interesting thing in a while is them saying basically we're going to go to war and then cool
Yeah.
Charlie's having dreams and like wanting to steal a baby and get him baptized. It's like what?
I was assuming because I haven't seen the show before that this plays into like the army thing later,
Nope.
right? That
Not
like
that I remember.
okay, I thought that he was just like he was like they're trying to steal the baby and them coming to like he's having these visions and like them coming to steal the baby is like the beginning of the battle and like and that's what I was like telling myself like oh that's where this is what this side storyline has the place of the in this
What I would
universe,
actually
but
be very interested. There's a couple little bit of a tangent here that I'm going to go on. So somebody took all the scenes in Lost and put them in chronological order, and they called it, drumroll please, chronologically Lost. And I have not watched it. I
oh
downloaded it. Like it was whoever did it was just like, hey, I'm not supposed to be doing this, but here's all the episodes of Lost in order. And they're like, you
yeah.
can't do this. Like take this down. But like it's like 60 gigs, and I downloaded it before it went away.
Is it episodes or is it scenes
No,
in
it's
order?
scenes because like as the show goes on, I was saying I'm not gonna say really how this happens, but like the
Yeah.
mythology gets way bigger, and so
Yep.
the time spans crazy. I don't want to spoil, but like imagine just like the beginning of time to like modern day, and then like the future. Like it's just like how things end. It's
Yeah, of
like it's
course.
crazy,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
get it. Okay.
somebody did all that work. It's they don't cut things out like it's all there, whatever. Similarly, but differently, and I think would be interesting here. Someone took Twin Peaks and they took the 29 hours or whatever of Twin Peaks, which is a notoriously, like people love that show, but there's also like you would go crazy. You specifically would go crazy watching the show because there is so much like, what the fuck does this have anything to do with anything? And like the answer is
I watched
it doesn't.
some of it.
Like,
Yeah,
and if
I
you watch
watched
some
some
of it,
of
you
it.
probably watch season 1, which like is like
Yeah.
phenomenal, and season 2 is like what? Like, there's a Civil War reenactment thing in the middle of season 2 that just like we don't have stories to tell. Like, it's insane. So what somebody did is they took these 25 hours or 29 hours or whatever and condensed it
Yeah.
down to like 6. They're like, this is the Twin Peaks story.
Okay.
I would love. Don't know that anybody's ever going to do this because I feel like if they were, it would have come out by
It
now.
was yeah, it would have been dark.
This for Lost, we're just like, hey, this is the island, and like this kind of has something to do with the island. Like, there's weird stuff going on with Charlie, but like, we don't need this
You just ignore that. Yeah, you're just like, yeah, fuck that. We don't need it. Cool, move along. Like we don't need a diaper commercial in the middle of this thing.
for you all, everybody's butties,
Yeah.
Butties.
And also, like, as much as I like Charlie and I like the Charlie backstory, this one felt kind of redundant. It's like, okay, yeah, like you and your brother were on drugs.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah,
We got that again.
I think
saw it.
it's the thing where you have 42 or 43 or 45 minutes a week for 22 to 25 weeks to tell a story, and it's what do you fill the time with? And I love Charlie, but again, not every episode is like a real home run. So I don't know.
The Letty standout parts, though, because she's not in much of it again. Just her and Jack are hanging out in the woods. But the conversation she has with Jack, incredible, right?
I forgot that this was one of her lines, but this is like an all-timer of a line on Lost that I totally forgot about.
Oh, really? Is it like a popular line with the fans?
I don't know the fans, but I just remember, maybe it's just an all-timer with me, but you hitting that, and Jack says, what? And she says, plane crash, you both survive, nice beach, she's hot, you're hot, it's what people do. But I remember, like, she's hot, you're hot, it's what people do. Like, that stands out in my brain. I was like, oh, shit, okay, that's this. Okay, cool.
Why does she not have? She needs like an assistant or an agent that like reads her dialogue and goes like, Absolutely not. Like it comes in, like she's not saying this. Get the fuck out of here. Because it's like they always give her like the dumbest lines, and the more that we do this lap, the more I see it.
So
She
I
always
think
has
it
like
is
super stupid lines.
dumb lines, but I think what the maybe the more specific way to describe the lines she has is she has the blunt lines.
You're right.
Somebody just
Okay.
needs to say this, and it's like it's part of that. Like, look at Anna Lucia. She doesn't give a fuck. It's like, well, I mean, you could give her nuance or whatever, but like she's like she says though it's on her mind, but like that's the kind of character. It's not dumb lines, just like she's kind of stating the obvious when no one else will. Because like is what people are like looking at like, yeah, why aren't you guys fucking? Like you're both beautiful. Like what do you not like? Why is everyone on this island not having sex? Like Hurley's the only one who like
No, there's a difference between blunt and crass though, and they like often give her crass to be blunt.
yeah, yeah.
Like she could be blunt and nuanced, but instead they're like, don't make me come over there and make you team pussy. And like this is like you hitting that. Like, come on, man. Like you couldn't have been like, are you guys an item? Wink. I feel bad for her that she gets. In my opinion, I think she gets shitty lines for how as good as we see her be an actress and other things.
I think the one other thing to keep in mind, and this is not necessarily an excuse or a reason why it's still happening, but this is we're watching the show that is in either late '05 or
You're
early
right.
'06. And she's only been around for 5 or 6 years, which is a long time. But it's not like she has this huge history of track record or whatever. You can kind of go against the grain. Like absolutely, I'm firmly with you that she can deliver more stuff. Like our next episode, when we're going to talk about Milton's Secret, I don't think it's she's kind of like a supporting character, but like it's a different thing, right? Like there's a whole thing that you can
Yeah.
see where she's doing something else, right? Spoiler: that's the
Yes.
movie we're covering next. Well, you'll hear about it at the end.
Yes.
At this point in her career, she's done Girl Fight, she's done The Fast and the Furious, she's done Resident Evil, she's done SWAT. It's like she's only been playing these like not even just the stereotypical coded male roles, but like the badass alpha, alpha, alpha. And
Yeah.
it's she's the one who doesn't have time, like nothing but time, but like she has no time for bullshit basically. And it's like, why aren't you and Kate having sex? What's going on there? And I
She
agree
could
it's
have even
blunt,
said
but I also
that.
I get it. I get it.
Just not you hitting that. That's these are the qualms that I have. It's just the word choice is so bad all the time.
In a certain regard, and again, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate because like I don't want to just like
Yeah, you're fine.
it's just funny where it feels like this whole world everybody kind of talks the same way, and then she says that, and Jack's even like, "What? Like what? Like is that really the line? Like, oh, I guess okay, what?
I really just hope that it's not like she's like notorious for like improving lines and like these are always the ones that she comes up with. That's all I pray. That they're not like, "Oh, like this is your conversation." She's like, "I got the perfect line for it. You hitting that?" And he's like, "What?" Like, "Wow."
What I do love about this episode is that this is pretty firmly Sawyer's like wheelhouse, where Kate is helping him stretch and kind
That
of
was so
rehab his
cute.
arm,
Yep.
but he sees Hurley and he's kind of teasing her, and he calls him Jabba, which is not nice. But like this is his just like he's in a happy place. He's with the woman he loves. We think he's doing these things, and he's just like, look over there, look at Jack, and like, but he's just kind of like that, picking things out like roast, roast, roast. Like this is classic Sawyer.
Like as much as he like was kind of making a jab at Hurley here, he was like being a bro. Like he was giving him good advice. Like here's your shot. Like she's about to go do laundry. There's your in, bud. Was teaching him how to approach women.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
And what's even funnier and cuter is that like Libby is like teaching him how to approach women. Like, no, like I asked you this question. Like, here's what you're supposed to say.
Yes. So I hope that works out. I'm assuming it will. It seems like it will.
Is there anything else of note? You talked about the diaper commercial, which is
When he has the first vision, all I could think of is don't throw the baby out with the ocean water because like the baby is just out in the middle of the. I was like, why did we do this? Like, but yeah, Charlie trying to steal the baby 50 times
it's
is like,
it's
dude.
kind of corny as shit. Like, it's not great. And
Yeah.
like him, because the whole thing is he on
And then he starts a
drugs?
fire.
I don't know that this is why there's a fire, but like there's the phrase baptism by fire, which is not this, but it's like, hey, I want to baptize the
Yeah.
baby. Let me start a fire. It's like Charlie, that's not what the phrase means, but I appreciate it.
And also, all he needed to do was like go talk to like Mr. Echo. Like she's already thinking about the baptism thing. Just be like, hey, go offer to baptize the baby. Like I had this vision, and instead he like, in the most Charlie way possible, was like, oh, let me just burn down the whole campground and like get everybody distracted so I can run this baby into the ocean. You can't baptize it anyway. Like, whatever.
I got nothing else to say about this
Same.
episode. The next episode is called The Long Con, which I'm assuming, I don't remember, I didn't check. I'm
Sawyer.
assuming it's a Sawyer episode, yeah.
I'm
Or
taking
maybe
a
Kate.
guess, yeah.
Could be one or the other, but we just had a Kate episode,
Ooh.
right? So,
Yep, I think so too. I think it's gonna be a Sawyer episode. Yep.
last thing to do before we take a break is to talk about the Fast and the Furious minute 86. A minute I called Mia take the wheel. I was thinking like Jesus take the wheel, but
I got it, and it's beautiful.
Mia,
Yes, I
take
love
the
it.
wheel.
You okay? Come on, girl, you all right? Come on, let me look at you. Come on, we gotta go. Let's go. Here, take the wheel. Take the wheel. Put your foot on the gas. I'm gonna get him. Put your foot on the gas.
So in this minute, Leon pulls Letty from her flipped car, makes sure she's okay, and helps her back to his car. Brian and Mia race by en route to the truck. Brian looks at them as he passes. Truck driver fires a shotgun again, hitting Vince in the side of his stomach. Truck driver shoots at Dom's car, once again hitting his engine, making it smoke. The engine damage, plus he's got a sparking, tireless rim, forces Dom to pull over. Brian and Mia race by Dom, who's now on the side of the road, and pull up next to the truck. Brian knocks his convertible's roof out. Brian tells Mia to take the wheel as he reaches for Vince, and then Mia begins to slide over as Brian leans out of his window and begins reaching for Vince. I think it's more of a plot summary than I've written in a while, but compared to the last 5 minutes, where it's like Vince is dangling and Vin's reaching and Dom's
grunting
reaching for
in
him.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Brian and Mia in 5 minutes. It hasn't been since minute 81. So to see them back, it's like, oh, right.
True.
Narrative momentum.
There we go. Yeah, we're getting to the end of this finally. Some interesting thing that I noticed. I feel like this is the second time Leon's done the we gotta go. And I think that was right after he did cops, cops, cops.
That would make
You
sense.
know?
Yeah.
And I feel like this character has said we gotta go or let's go multiple times in this movie.
Well, you know why?
Why?
Because he looks like a criminal. He's used to running away from the cops.
Exactly. He knows. He has intuition about running away from cops because of his criminal background that we've never seen.
I do want to say when he grabs Letty, but it looks like he's not grabbing Letty. It looks like he's grabbing Michelle Rodriguez. And I don't know if what they were each supposed to do, their wires got crossed, or this is just really good blocking. It seems like he literally is no, we're going this way, and grabs her and kind of pulls her by the stomach. It looks like he actually did that. It wasn't like she was going with him. It was oh no, we're going this way.
By the waist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if she was concussed from the accident, it would make sense that she would be dazed and confused and that he would need to drag her with a little effort. So, it fits.
Intentionally or accidentally, it's great acting, I think.
It is. It's very good, yeah. The only new thing that I got this time was that there's a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit sign.
Oh,
because
okay.
that's what I saw on the side of the road. There's no other cars. There's no other cars on the road. There's no distinguishing factors on the road. They drive by a town. You can see a town behind Mia at one point, but it's just a fucking town.
Is this the third time that we've seen Mia drive? She drives after the date. We don't see her drive. We
in the extended scene.
We assume that she's driving in the heist, right? Or she's involved in the heist, but we don't see her in that.
She pulls up to Race Wars, I think.
I remember going through and going back and seeing Brian get a ticket and seeing somebody behind. I don't remember.
She definitely drives on the date. She definitely drives in the extended scene that is cut out, but that's kind of the same type of scene, right? Yeah, and here is driving, but really is she driving?
Well, not, and especially not yet, where it's a second and a half of her leaning over. But it's going to get to the point where she is. But it's just funny to me that she is a driver from a family of racers. I guess it's the whole thing. I didn't expect this to happen, but he's take the wheel. She's what? What is a car? It's basically
drive.
What is
drive? A car? Yeah, I know. I thought the same thing. I thought she was gonna. I really thought that I forgot that she was gonna be I don't know how to drive, the guy in 2. And then I was oh no, she drove in the date. She has a car.
Yeah.
So why? I mean, we knew this, right? But in that moment when I'm rewatching the minute over and over again, I really expected her to be what? I don't know how to drive. And he's no, just put your foot on the gas. And
anything else of note? Because there's no music, there's no new future fast and actions, there's no new clothing things. Most of the things, you said on Facebook, well, that's there's nothing else for me to do. There's nothing for me. There's a lot of plot which I captured. I think maybe the most interesting thing in micro analyzing Leon pulling Letty from her car, and just like that little gesture of like actually like no, we're going this way. Like I think
And
that's
like spinning her, yeah.
and Brian punching his convertible roof out. But
His T-tops, yeah.
by the way, T-top, a very, very, very common answer in the New York Times crossword puzzle.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Like an option on a car or something like that. Like it's like there's a couple different things. It's always T-top because like
It's good letters for the
Yeah.
other way. Yeah.
Yep. All right, so trivia question. I don't know if this is great or not, but I think it's okay. Also, given the fact that like a lot happens, but it's all kind of just. But my question
Yeah.
is, where does Vince get shot by the truck driver? Because like he gets
Does
shot in the
he?
side. Because I think we could say his arm, because people would be like, oh yeah, his arm is bloody, but that's just a wire.
Yeah, he's hanging by his arm.
His side, which is the right answer. He never gets hit, which I think is kind of a trick answer.
That's a good answer.
And then
yeah, I
his
thought that
leg?
he doesn't get shot.
I don't remember him getting shot, but he very clearly gets shot in the side.
Like, even looking at it, like, when you had the question right in front of me, I was like, he doesn't get shot. Like, he gets shot at, but I don't think he actually gets hit. But you're right, yeah. And later, when Brian calls it in, he goes, he has a gunshot wound.
Right.
So it's also reiterated later. So, yeah.
I want to give credit to this truck driver for being so accurate that he's like, he shot Dom's tire out, he shot the engine out, made Dom
He's
pull
shooting
over.
with a shotgun.
I know,
Have
but
you ever
still,
shot-
like,
it's
he's
buckshot,
he's
dude. It's like,
but he's driving a semi truck and shooting with one arm while a guy is trying to jack his car. Like it's easy to spray and pray, but there's a lot going on.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's still like driving. He's avoiding the cars, and like Letty's going under him, and he has to reload at one point. Right, we see him reload.
I mean, he shoots out Letty's windshield from kind of far away. Like he's hitting a lot of things. Like he's
It's buckshot though. Like if you can do the action of pointing it, it's just spraying everywhere. But yes, it's still impressive. It is impressive.
I just think, yeah, the one-handed nature of it all, driving the truck, not crashing, having people shoot harpoons at you, having people slam their cars into you.
There is a lot going on. You're right.
Minute 86, Mia, take the wheel. Where does Vince get shot by the truck driver? His side. 86 minutes, 97 questions.
Yeah, it's a good one too. I like that.
Available at toofast2forever.com. Joe, let's take a break and let us talk about Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days.
Welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. This is episode number 127, Strange Days. This episode is brought to you by squid-cash.org. Thousands of websites around the internet use Squid to drastically increase their content delivery. Squid can reduce your server load and improve your delivery speeds to clients. Shout out squidcash.org.
Well, shout out Squid Cash, and welcome back to Too Fast, Too Forever. So I was saying, we watched this movie, and I do want to point out right now that I think she listens to these. I'm not sure if she's going to hold off on this, because I know when we talked to her on the Resident Evil episodes, that she hadn't seen this movie yet, so I don't know if she's going to wait to see it first, but like, this is all of Kara's favorite things in one movie, genuinely, like across the board. And Kara, if you are still listening, if you're not putting this one off, you will go seek this one out. The issue is that it's not streaming anywhere, and the DVD's out of print.
But it's great. I don't know why. How is this not a cult classic?
Well, it is a cult classic, and I have lots of background information about this because I want to learn about this, so we'll get into that. This was recommended by your friend Aiden, who you have said before to me. I don't know if we talked about him on here, but you've said that he and I have very similar movie tastes. This is a movie that I had been
Yes.
wanting to see for a while. Again, not that I need a reason to watch a movie, but never had a reason to watch it, and then finally watched it. And even though it doesn't quite fit in with the theme of this lap, it almost does. And also, at the end of the day, I don't really care because I really liked it.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say, did you like it as much as I did? Because I thought this was a wonderful movie. So thank you, Aiden, for the recommendation. Yeah, when we were talking about this, like, he was asking me something about why I've been watching so many Michelle Rodriguez movies, much like my other friend. And I told him, our theme of this lap is Michelle Rodriguez and memory loss. And he was like, oh, are you doing like this and Strange Days? And I was like, Strange Days. And I sent it to you. And you were like, oh, I've been meaning to watch that.
So it's directed by Catherine Bigelow, who directed Point Break, which sort of not really inspired, but led to the like format, structure, style, whatever, of the first Fast and Furious movie. So Catherine Bigelow, her filmmaking is kind of in our genes.
Yeah.
So I'll give a quick summary, and then I'll talk about the background stuff that we can get into this. So this is a movie set in the future at the time, but kind of a dystopian future of 1999. It's about to be Y2K. Check it off the box.
Yes.
Kara loves Y2K.
Okay. Nice.
It is a version of Los Angeles' future if after the Rodney King beating and the subsequent LA riots irrevocably broke the city. And I'm not saying that they didn't irrevocably break the city, but like
Yes.
if things were even worse than they already were. Like things
Yes.
are very, very bad. To the point where like the police commissioner in this movie is apparently based on the commissioner at the time who like mishandled just about everything. So it's all
Okay.
founded in that. Catherine Bigelow also said that the Lorena Bobbitt trial, the woman who cut off her husband's penis and threw it in
Yeah.
a bush or whatever, I don't know the exact details of it. I know that's the
Lifetime
broad
classics.
strokes, no pun intended, that's also what inspired her for this. So there is a device called the Squid. Shout out once again to sponsor Squid Cash. On your head, it's kind of a skull cap that taps into the cerebral cortex that is able to capture experiences and transmit them to a mini disc, and that you're able to watch them on another viewer, which is also kind of like a squid skull cap
Thing.
and you're able to
Yeah.
relive and not only sort of see it in VR, but also feel what they feel. And so it's
Yeah.
immersive VR in a way that I don't know that real technology ever will get to. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, Elon Musk is out here like having pigs control things with their brains. So maybe, I don't know.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Rafe Fiennes, aka Lord Voldemort, he who shall not be named, plays
Yeah.
this former LAPD detective who is now a black market dude who peddles these
Discs, the
illegal
experiences.
discs, maybe.
But they're illegal because he's like, yeah, they're like it's frowned upon.
Right.
Because they use the words like, "Are you wire tripping?" and like he's kind of shady about it, and it's like a black market. It's like it's definitely not legal.
It feels more unregulated than illegal because they talk about how you can get overloaded by watching one of these that's like set to too extreme, and like it happens a couple times in this movie.
Yeah.
The worst drug trip where people are like, "Oh no, his brain is broken; he'll never come back." Right? It's just like it can you can be overloaded and just never return to reality. He used to be dating this woman named Faith, who's played by Juliette Lewis. Do you know Juliette Lewis?
I recognize her, but I don't know what I know her from.
So she's a singer from Juliette Lewis and the Licks, so it makes sense that she's also a singer in this movie. She's an
Ah.
actor. She's in Glow. She's been in a bunch of different things. I think
Yeah, I think I've
probably
seen her in something.
most widely known, I would say, probably from Glow, the Gorgeous Ladies Wrestling, the Netflix series.
Okay.
But she's been in a bunch of things. She might have been the female lead in Natural Born Killers. She plays this woman, Faith, who is a singer, but also like part-time prostitute, right? Kind of, sort of.
She kind of was. She was like just doing tricks for drug money.
Right.
Is what he says she did, right?
Yep. And so the big narrative push of this movie is that this rapper and kind of activist and anti-police musician Jericho has been shot and killed, or he's been, assassinated. We find out that Faith's friend, who was another or she's a prostitute, was wearing one of these squid caps, saw these two corrupt cops played by Vincent D'Onofrio, aka Kingpin from Daredevil,
AKA the guy from Law and Order,
Sure.
Criminal Intent.
and also William Fichtner, who is the guy who chases in season 2 of Prison Break, I think chases Michael and his brother, whatever. So
Yeah.
they play these corrupt cops who we later find out eventually shot and killed Jericho and his other friend, and this
Just for no reason.
Well, because he was very vocally anti-police, and they just, corrupt cops took the law into their own hands, as cops
Yeah.
are wont to do. Lily saw this, recorded it. She runs away. They're just going to kill her because the movie kind of opens sort of like very early on. We see these cops chasing this woman. They pull off her hair, and they find the squid cap, and they realize that she had filmed this. She dumps it in our main guy, Ray Fiennes' car. Sort of the chase is on. We don't really know what's happening for a while. Eventually, we find out it was not Faith's new boyfriend who has become like addicted to, I don't remember what's it called, like the vision, like the way of watching like all these, he's
Wire
become
tripping.
addicted to like the mini discs. We think
Yeah.
you think for a while I think it's him, but then you find out that it is actually the main dude's friend, played by
oh man,
Tom Sizemore, who is
Yeah.
actually the villain after all. He was been hired to clean up loose ends, and he was going to frame Ray Fiennes.
That was like the worst reveal ever, though, because like it was such an obvious red herring that it was like leading to this guy. Because you would like see him and he'd be like, "I'm trying to help, but we shouldn't do it this way," and then like disappear for a while, and then he'd come back and be like, "Are we really sure we should do this?" And I was like, if it's this fucking guy, I'm gonna be so mad. And like that was disappointing.
I wasn't disappointed by that. I was more surprised that we got a happy ending in the end. I wasn't
Yes.
disappointed by that because I feel, he is sort of shifty, but to that end, everyone in this world is kind of shifty. And
Yeah,
there's a lot of divide. I mean, our main character, much like Brian O'Connor, is a former cop who is now kind of morally ambiguous, right? And so I didn't overthink Tom Sizemore's criminal intent because it just seems like he's kind of like a dirtbag going to mess something up. I didn't think he was going to be not the mastermind behind all this, but
I did, because once they were like, oh, it's definitely this guy, I was like, it's going to be the fucking friend. I know it's going to be the friend. And I got really disappointed that I had seen it coming.
I think the amount of time between when the movie's like, hey, it's this one guy, and the reveal of Tom Sizemore is like less than 5 minutes. Like it's
It
back
is,
to
yep.
back.
Yeah.
All along, so we have Rafe Fiennes, who is playing, his character's name is Lenny Nero. The second time in this lap that we've had a
Yeah.
protagonist named Lenny, and I don't know how many movies have somebody named Lenny in it, right? But
I feel
here
like
and
Joey
Memento.
Pants has played a character named Lenny a bunch.
Well, no, Joey Pants, he says Lenny a bunch because Guy Pearce in Memento.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking. Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. Okay,
That's
sorry.
that's what I was saying. The second time this lap, we had a main
Yeah.
character named Lenny. He's being helped by Angela Bassett, who plays Lornette Mason, and Mace has sort of a soft spot for Ray Fiennes because he helped protect. He was sort of a father figure to her child when the child's dad was out of the picture or whatever. And she's
Yes.
a limo driver in this bullet-resistant limousine, which is pretty cool. A lot of car sort of stuff. In the end, they win after some fraught tension. Then they kind of end with a passionate kiss, which I was not thrilled by. Just 'cause I'm like, I don't know if we need a happy ending. But then I read what Catherine Bigelow had said about it, and I was like, oh, okay, I get that. I appreciate that.
Cool. I want to know what that is. That's interesting.
But is there any other, before I get into the background, the info, whatever, is there anything else about the movie's plot that I skipped? Because it's a long movie, it's 2.5 hours, there's a lot going on. A lot of it is grounded in reality, but also with all sorts of sci-fi shit. So
Yes.
it's hard to sum up in just a couple minutes, but anything else major that I missed?
No, it's like very dystopian, but in a kind of real way.
It's like,
you know
yeah,
what I
it's,
mean?
it's like the darkest timeline, essentially.
Yeah, because it's like it's dystopian, but it's a lot of like riots and like chaos in the streets and like stuff like that. So like you have like, oh, you can like watch other people's memories, but also it's like the world is crumbling around it, and it's because of corrupt police stuff that we see today. So that was kind of weird and hit kind of different right now. Knowing that Faith, the character, is a singer is really interesting, because when I was watching it, they have like a few scenes where she plays at this like kind of like punk bar venue type situation. Whenever they had songs, I was like, these aren't bad. You know what I mean? And like I'm so used to watching Lifetime movies where it's like they let the lead actress do a musical number for no reason and they're all like horrible. I was like, "Oh wow, like to have songs that like aren't bad." I was like, this is strange. It doesn't feel right. And now it makes a lot more sense that she's like actually in a band.
Well, she's actually a singer, and the songs that she sang were written and already performed by this artist, PJ Harvey, who is great, who's got a great song called The Wheel, which I love. Taking existing songs and letting an actual singer sing them in the movie means like, oh yeah, like they're doing it right.
Yeah, it's way different than like they wrote this stupid song for the movie to be like a clip in the movie, right? So
Apparently, I was reading something. I don't think I copied this in, but it was something like they cast Juliette Lewis, and they were like, "Oh, cool, she can sing too." Like it wasn't like they cast it or they wrote it specifically for her or for an actor who could also sing. But I was like, "Oh, cool! Like we don't have to dub it after the fact." Because the entire opening sequence, like this whole movie opens in what you kind of think is VR. It's like this robbery of a Chinese restaurant. And
yeah.
the way that they shot that, and I have some more details I'll go into later, they couldn't capture sound, and so they had to redo all the sound after the fact. So I'm sure that like they were like, "Oh, cool! Like she can actually sing. We can just put the camera on her and let her sing, and like that makes our lives easy."
I want to learn how they did this, because I imagine that POV like shooting was much different in 95 than it is now.
Yeah, they had to invent a lot of technology. So here's some background. So the movie's title comes from the album Strange Days by The Doors, and the title track off that album you hear a cover of at one point when they're walking through the city on New Year's Eve. So the movie's written by James Cameron, who was Catherine Bigelow's husband at the time. They've since divorced, and was finished by Jay Cox. James Cameron had the idea first in 1986, but then had other things to do. Like I think he was working on Aliens at the time, doing a whole bunch of different stuff, so he shelved
Makes
it.
sense.
Then
Yeah.
he and Catherine Bigelow got together, helped her rewrite Point Break, and then he came up with this idea, or he like told her about this idea and she loved it. Wiki or IMDb says he did what was called a script mint. So generally when you pitch a movie, and I think it's probably a little bit different for someone like James Cameron or whoever, but like you come up with a treatment, which is kind of like, it depends on the length, but like 3 or 5 or maybe 15 pages, like a shorter thing that's like, here's what the movie's about, here are the characters.
Like plot
It's
summary.
not a script, but it's more than that. It's like a more complete look into what it's about. Like it's basically the movie, but not the script. A condensed version of everything, but it's everything soup to nuts. Sort of like, here's the themes, here's the characters, here's the plot, here's everything. Like this is what the
Okay.
movie's going to be. So there's
Okay.
a treatment, and then there's eventually a script, which is what they shoot from. But he did
Yeah.
something in between where he kind of did a treatment, kind of did a script. Eventually, Jay Cox would take it and turn it into a full-fledged script, and then I think James Cameron did like a little bit of a dialogue touch-up at the end. But what Catherine Bigelow loved about the story, was that she said, quote, these two characters
Mace and Lenny.
on the eve of the millennium, with one character trying to get the woman who loves him to help him save the woman he loves. It's a great
Yes.
emotional matrix.
Which I didn't pick up on, and Rachel had to say to me right before the end of the movie, oh, like, she totally loves him. And I was like, I think they're just friends. And she was like, nope, not at all. Remember that whole scene about where, he's like, how does it feel? Have you ever loved anyone that didn't love you back? And she's like, yep. And I was like, I thought they were just, like, talking like friends. And then they kiss, like, right after Rachel says it. I was like, oh, you were right, definitely.
No,
I
yeah, there's
just
a couple scenes in this movie where they're like, oh yeah, no, she loves him.
Yeah, I know. I was just like, I just thought they were like really good friends, and she like was like, oh man, like he's like the bumbling idiot that she kind of takes care of, which she is, and he is. But I thought that it was more of that than they were in love.
Yeah, but okay, so I will get to that more because there is a definitely maternal instinct here too.
Yes,
So I'll get to that.
yes.
So okay, the POV sequences required well over a year of preparation, planning, and rehearsal because all of these sequences that you watch through the squid are all first-person POV because it's literally what a person's seeing. So it's what they're seeing, it's what they're
Yes.
feeling, it's what they're smelling, what they're hearing, all of that. So when you're looking, it's VR but beyond, right? Like it's more than just VR.
With emotional attachment, yes.
Yes. And so the opening sequence, which is that Chinese restaurant robbery, was shot at 4 separate locations as one continuous where they have to go through, they go up on the roof and they jump over the roof and whatever, and they fall down. That could not be found. So due to the pace, Soundman could not record any sound. Everything had to be edited in post, which I said. Catherine Bigelow, when planning this out, found that no existing camera system could accomplish the shots needed for these sequences. So the research division at Lightstorm Entertainment, which is James Cameron's company, spent a year designing and fabricating a special camera. So we now know that he invented all this tech for Avatar. He's doing all this underwater tech. He's developing new tech. But like even back in the early 90s, he's doing crazy camera inventions to like make movies happen, which is pretty cool.
Yep. Very cool.
The camera that they made weighed 8 pounds and fit in the palm of a hand and featured interchangeable lenses, remote follow focus, and a video assist, which was needed because the camera had no viewfinder. Also keep in mind that this is not digital, this is actually shooting 35 millimeter film, so like the fact that it's this light and this small is like remarkable.
Insane, yeah.
It was mounted on a Steadicam style portable rig, which added stability and mobility, which is similar to the human eye.
Did they wear it on their chest or their head?
I don't know that they wore it on either. I think they might have just carried it in front of them. Small enough that I guess they could do either. I don't think it's like a GoPro where you're strapping it to your head. Like, it's 8 pounds. Like, it's not, I don't think you're putting that on your head.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's like a chest harness that was like raised and would like block your view, kind of.
Yeah.
Maybe like a gyroscope type thing, like you said, like a
because
balance
they're
thing.
literally like running through things, right? Like they're following,
Yeah.
they're doing chase sequences with the camera, so like you need to see where you're going. So the movie touches on themes and elements of racism, abuse of power, and rape, which we'll get into. Voyeurism, also a major element due to the extensive use of squid tech. The fact that it was directed by a woman was even more controversial, says Wikipedia, with film critic Michael Mirasol noting that A Strange Days had been directed by a man. Many of the scenes would have been criticized as sexist and misogynistic.
That might be fair. That because like there's like a lot of male gaze.
When you can do that, and like there's now currently Netflix is facing a backlash about this movie Cuties. Do you know about this backlash?
I just saw all the things 'cause it's like about very young children and like sexualizing them.
Right. So the original marketing material was very sexualized, and this movie is about, from what I gather. I have not seen it yet.
Like
It's
dance
about, like
teams?
dance teams and like the sexualization of like 13-year-old girls. Take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But you can make a movie about anything. But like you can't just make a movie about something just to be like, hey, like let's go make a movie where like we show how hot 13-year-old girls are. Like that's not what I'm saying. But like you can
Yes.
make a movie like that if you're commenting on like how fucked up is it that parents let their daughters and encourage their daughters to do this, right? Or like whatever.
Yeah.
So the same thing here. Like you can make a
It's like
movie.
it's a very Harmony Korine type thing that
Exactly.
like if you had Harmony Korine make a movie about 13-year-olds, you'd be like, "Oh, that was fucked." But like he could do it because this is the whole like what is spring break like? What is being a writer like?
You can make a movie that has rape, that has voyeurism, that has the male gaze, and has violence and racism and abuse of power and everything if
Yeah.
you are able to comment on it. And I feel like
Yeah.
there was backlash against this movie because it felt like people thought, not everybody, like it's a real split opinion here, but people thought that she did not do enough to comment on that and seemed to be kind of glorifying it. But she explicitly,
I
like in everything she's
yeah.
talking about, said like that's not the purpose.
She did a lot of commenting without doing me, Hermano, my brother, or my doctor, my doctor. Without her being like, look at all this racism here. It's all there. She just doesn't use the words to like say it, right?
If you know what to look for, yes.
Yeah, I don't think that this was like she wasn't like just showing rape and being like, well, there was a rape. It was like there was definitely like a purpose. People were like upset about it. It was like shocking and jarring. Like it fit the story. Like it was all there. It just wasn't them being like, damn, a rape. This is terrible. Like they do.
People like Roger Ebert gave this 4 out of 4 stars, but there was backlash that it was just glorifying violence and that it was not doing what it should be doing. Like it sort of felt like it was, hey, look at this cool technology, isn't this fun?
Okay. Okay.
And I'm not saying that
Yeah.
I don't agree with
That
that,
you
but I
don't
can see
agree.
why people would, especially because like you said, like when I said it, like if a man had made this, it'd be like, oh, like why are like because Juliette Lewis when she comes home from the beach, like immediately gets like almost fully naked and just like
She's like topless
drying
the
me off.
entire movie.
Yeah,
Like essentially she's topless this entire movie. That's why I was like, wow, like that, like not that it mattered, just like I was just like, oh wow, like because we were just talking about Resident Evil and like putting a sheet on her and like her not being topless, right? And then we come to this movie where she's like all topless the entire movie.
I don't have the expertise or the insight to talk about this at length, but it makes sense within the movie. Like if this
Yeah, it
is
does.
about how creepy dudes can be, and like when he's showing off his tech, like he's like, "Hey, check this one out," and it's you don't see it, but it's a
Yes.
guy experiencing what it's like to be an 18-year-old girl taking a shower. And it's like,
Yep.
oh, like that's exactly where people are going to go the first time. It's like, how can I put porn on
Exactly.
it, right? So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. So anyway, there was a long list of people considered for the part of Lenny Nero. Basically, every '90s action star. Originally, Andy Garcia was considered for the part, and Bono
Ooh.
was going to play Philo Gant, who is Faith's love interest, the guy who becomes obsessed with the tech. But Bono obviously did not get in here.
That would actually be really interesting, I think.
I think so. Because especially there's a
think that
lot
would've
of
worked.
music elements here too, and we'll get into. And after seeing Pulp Fiction, Catherine Bigelow wanted John Travolta, but eventually they wound up settling on Ray Fiennes, who I think James Cameron was against. But then by having him be so handsome and so like empathetic and just so like kind of brooding
Charming.
in a way, it made you be like, oh, I care about him and I care about what happens to him. As opposed to just like kind of like a action star or whatever. It's just like, oh, just an action star. But here it was a kind of a different, like softer, kind of handsome dude who brought a different kind of character development to the story.
Yeah.
At least that's the thinking. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was kind of the thinking here.
I don't know. I feel like you have some empathy towards him. Like he's not like a character that you hate. You're like, oh, okay, like he does some shitty things. He's definitely in the grave, but you're not like he's a complete scumbag, right? Like he is, but you're not like you don't hate him about it.
Yeah. So after all of this, in spite of all this new tech, all this casting, all the grand ideas for this was a huge box office bomb. Apparently the marketing did not know how to get this out there. Cost $42 million to make, only made about $7 million back.
Oof.
Almost derailed her career. Took her another like 5 years to make another movie before, Hollywood allowed her essentially to make another movie. Some reviewers, like I was saying, praised the gritty atmosphere and the performances by Ray Fiennes and Angela Bassett. Others
Yeah.
criticized it for failing to comment on its violence. Since then, since it came out in the 25 years, its critical standing has improved. It's become a cult classic. At the Saturn Awards, which I think are the sci-fi and fantasy and just sort of like the genre movie awards, Angela Bassett won Best Actress, and Catherine Bigelow became the first woman to win its Best Director award. So, like, it was
Oh,
well received within certain circles. But the mass
interesting.
appeal, the widespread appeal, I guess just studio failure to figure out how to get people to see this. Because it
Yeah.
feels like coming out a year after OJ, it's both too soon, but also exactly what should be seen.
I didn't put that timeline, that chronology into perspective. That was cool. Thank you for giving me that. So it's a year after OJ. So yeah.
Or maybe even not, maybe the same year as OJ, because I know that the OJ chase was in June '94, but
Yeah.
like, right? So it's all in that same time period. So anyway, the
Yeah,
only
that's
other background that I have about this was about the very end where Angela Bassett and Ray Fiennes kissed and the movie. Bigelow said that over and over again that it did not glorify violence and had a positive purpose. Quote, I wanted to treat the system fairly, because if it's the enemy, then we're the enemy, since by not changing it, we're reproducing it. The film
mm,
ends in a strong insistence on hope. Ultimately, it's humanity, not technology, that takes us into the next century and the next millennium. And a lot has been written about Mace being strong but feminine, as she often rescues Lenny in dire situations and shows maternal concern for him. A real contrast between the two characters. Mace is the hero and the moral center. Lenny is the anti hero. Mace is black, Lenny is white. Mace is hard edged and reality based, and Lenny is dominated by fantasies. The film's white characters also tend to be nihilistically concerned with the present, while black characters are generally future revolutionaries. And she says
true.
that this is her most personal film. Quote, it's a synthesis of all the different tracks I've been exploring, either deliberately or unconsciously, ever since I started making art. Yeah, it's a good movie with a lot of themes that were relevant in '95 and are still relevant today.
Very relevant today. That was like the most impressive part about this movie to me. Is it was like, oh shit, this could be a dystopian universe set 10 years from now or 5 years from now. Like the same thing that she did then.
Or 3 months from now if things go wrong in November.
Definitely could. Yeah.
So I just talked for a whole lot about a lot of background stuff. So tell me about what you loved, what you didn't like, some fast connections, wherever you want to talk about. Just dive into Strange Days so I can drink some water and catch my breath.
One of the things that I noticed in this movie that isn't a fast connection, but is a Too Fast, Too Forever connection, when they're executing Jericho, he references RoboCop like 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking that's really cool, and I kind of hinted at this on the intro of the last episode. It was seen there, and then we just watched, Resident Evil: The Final Chapter, and she does a "You're fired." That was very RoboCop. So I was like, oh, I'm just seeing RoboCop everywhere today, right? Like the past 2 days. So I felt like who do you think would be our Letty character in this movie?
Interesting, interesting. I would imagine it's probably, I think Mace is kind of a combination of Letty and Mia if they were combined into one character, in that she is maternal, but she's also much more able to accomplish things than Mia is ever given credit for.
Yeah.
I think that's the easy comparison to make. I don't know. Who were you thinking?
I was thinking that the Letty character in this movie, from a different perspective, is Faith.
How so?
She's like independent and doesn't really like to be told what to do. In Fast and Furious 6 that we just watched, you see Letty's like kind of with Shaw, not like romantically, but she's like with him. But she like has allegiance to Dom and is gonna do whatever she wants, right? And there was like a line that Faith says that she's like, "I'm a big girl now. I don't need saving." And I was like, "Oh, this feels like a very Letty line, right?" We don't see it much because like Dom was always her savior, but I can imagine a world in the Fastiverse where Letty's like, I don't need saving by Hobbs or Brian or like, because this is the thing, right? Like in 6, that Brian's like, oh man, it was my fault. And she's like, no, I know that I would have done what I wanted to do anyways.
I think what's interesting about the Faith character in this movie is that she's played, you think she's a lot more sympathetic than she actually is, because Lenny wants her to be sympathetic, that he
Yep.
keeps watching these old videos, essentially, like old, kind of whole movies, but they're all these, the squids, where
Yeah.
she's in love with him and he's in love with her and he's trying to recapture that, but like, in the present day, like, she could not give less of a shit about him, right? She's like, get out of here, Lenny.
No.
I don't want you to be around.
Which is pretty badass. It's very independent of her. So that's why I was getting Letty vibes from her. But I mean, other than her being like a shithead, like that part, no.
It's the independence, but it's also just like, we broke up, move on. Like, I think it's less of just I'm my own woman. It kind of is, but it's also more just like, we're not together for a reason anymore. Like, her making out with Tom Sizemore at the end, like in front of him in that very like I don't want to say graphic in like a graphic way, but like graphic in like a overt like let's like both look at him while we're kissing like with the most wide open mouths possible, right? Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing where it's
Antagonizing.
malicious, like it's independent, but it's
Yeah.
malicious in a way that Letty never is.
But I'm saying, like, change of perspective. Like, if there was like an ex boyfriend that existed before Dom, and then like he was still chasing after Letty, and like you saw like Letty and Dom together, don't you think she would do the same thing with Dom? Like, I could see her being like, "I'm with Dom now. Get the fuck out of here," and be like, "Leave me alone. Like, I'm my own woman. Stop trying to save me."
Now I'm just laughing about thinking about Dom and Tom Sizemore being the same. It's like, no, not at all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, I know, right? Like an aloof, like bouncer, private investigator type situation. You're like, what? So I commented before about how I was disappointed that, as you said, Tom Sizemore Max was the evil genius behind this, right? And how I was disappointed in that twist. Biggest twist of this movie came immediately after that. After being summed up to be like the biggest shithead in the movie, the police commissioner, he like for once does the right thing and he arrests these cops that executed Jericho like at the very end of the movie. And I was like, I did not see that coming at all. Like, I thought the cops were free and they were just gonna do whatever they wanted, but like him to be like, no, the evidence is here, like you guys murdered that guy, like we're arresting you. I was like, oh shit, a movie where we see cops like have to pay for the dumb shit that they did. That's incredible. Never seen that before.
This whole movie, I think, is so, to use the word that they talked about the white characters, like nihilistic in like everything is going wrong. Like because we're seeing the movie from Lenny's perspective, like there was no way that I was expecting a happy ending. But then for things
Yeah.
to work out, both of the police commissioner, like you're saying, but then with the kiss at the end, and like not that these cops are going to face trial because William Fichtner shoots himself, and
Yeah.
then Vincent D'Onofrio basically suicides by cop,
Yep.
but not necessarily widespread happy ending, even though Catherine Bigelow is like it's all about the humanity and the hope, which in that regard, yes, but it's more so, yeah, I guess things are not gonna be terrible. I don't know. I was sort of blown away by like the two or three things that happened at the end where I'm like, oh, like this is actually kind of uplifting. Like after
Yep.
mostly
Same.
2.5 hours of pretty much eternal darkness, it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Actually, now that you said that, isn't most of the movie shot at night? Like, I don't think
Oh
he's like
yes,
awake during the day.
77 of the 80 shooting days were at night. Like it almost exclusively shot and takes place at night. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, now that you mentioned like the darkness, like yeah, I was like, oh fuck, you're right. And then like he doesn't wake up till like 2 p.m. and like all this shit. Yeah, that was like all of my fast connection type things, really. Other than like, I just generally love this movie, and I'm surprised that I haven't seen it or more people haven't seen it. And I'm excited to play the letterbox game to see like what the like how close I am to how many people have seen it or liked it.
Well, I think to Kara's point at the end of the Resident Evil Retribution episode was that as we see in the after effects of this, that this movie bombed and that Hollywood gave her such a hard time getting another movie made, and Kara was talking about the distribution. I don't
Yeah.
have any understanding. Like I was telling my sister last night, she was talking to me about Destination Wedding, a Keanu Reeves Winona Ryder movie. She's like, "What do you think of this?" I'm like, "I think it's fun." She's like, "Oh, I'm 5 minutes in and I can't stand either of them." I'm like bail now because like it
Yeah.
does not get better because that's the entire movie. Like literally no other character in that movie has a line. The reason I bring it up because I was like, instead watch Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight, which are the same kind of two character falling in love over a course of a movie with nobody else really around, but that's the best version of it. And so I'm like, she's like,
Yeah.
where can I watch those? I was like, well, it looks like the first two are on Netflix, but the first and third are on HBO Max. I'm like, I don't understand licensing at all. And so when Kara's saying about, female directors having a hard time breaking in and getting distribution, like, absolutely yes. But I also think there's like all sorts of complexities here that I just do not understand why the same studio who has the rights to all three of these movies don't put them in the same places. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of politics, not only the gender dynamics of just women not having a fair shake in Hollywood, which is undeniable, but
Yep.
also like this is not a movie that Vinegar Syndrome or whatever would ever salvage because it's too good. But like I don't know why Criterion necessarily isn't doing like a Catherine Bigelow box set with like
Yes.
we were talking about how Near Dark from 1987, which is this awesome vampire movie that she made. That's almost impossible to find. And this, like, you can buy the Blu-ray, which I bought the DVD like forever ago. You can buy the Blu-ray on Amazon, but it's like $50. Like, it's like just aftermarket. Like, it's not $300 out of print, but it's like this isn't available now. You have to pony up to get it, and it's a shame that you can't pay to stream this anywhere. And then if you want to buy it, you kind of have to invest in it because it's like it's hard to find and it's great. So it's not only her. I think there's a lot of movies, but there's undeniably the gender dynamic of it as well.
Yeah. Because like, why isn't this a $3 Amazon rental? And like, I think a lot of people would really enjoy this movie. And like, I asked my friends if they had ever seen it. I'm like, you would really like this, you know? Like, and we had to take a recommendation from a filmy that like likes more obscure movies to get it right. Like, so it just feels weird.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why it's not out there. I think there's probably more things at play than we are ever going to be privy to, but it's a bummer because yeah, people would love this movie. It's important. It's fun.
And it's poignant now too,
Yeah.
like we were saying, right? Like it's
Yep.
like you could easily plug this into today and be like, oh shit, same thing.
I mean, I'm sure this is not the first version of this, but it's the citizen journalism, the body cams on cops. It's people filming cops being corrupt, right? Like it's the same thing we're seeing
Yeah.
all these times. Like when people today are like, think about all the things that aren't filmed. Like think about all the times in history that things weren't filmed. But here, at least with this crazy squid future tech, like it's filmed and it's captured. And it's not only like you're also feeling the actual fear. So like even people who are so empathetic, like I can't like just being there in the scene and feeling what Lily feels. It's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
Lily, Iris.
Iris.
I was getting a lot of Matrix vibes because there's the mini disc. So like in the beginning of the
And the
Matrix,
net thing.
when Dujour and that guy show up to Neo's apartment, and he's like, you ever get called this? Like, yeah, I know you don't exist, whatever. He uses a mini disc, like it's like just purely 90s tech, which is another thing that Kara loves, and just hackers and the cyberpunk elements of it all. There's also a lot of like club scenes and dance scenes and rave scenes, which are also adjacent to the Matrix. The
Yep.
band, the thrash metal band Testament is in this movie. That huge party that they throw costs like $1 million. Aphex Twin performed there, D Light performed there, Lady Miss Keir, Doc Martin were all there. The rave was at a rave called Millennium that they like charged people to show up and like be at.
So for the movie,
They spent like they basically threw $1 million party and filmed there.
it was like, okay, if you come to this giant sick ass party, you also might be in the movie as an
Yeah.
extra. That's the dopest idea I've ever heard in my life.
I think it cost like $875,000 or something like that. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, but can you imagine if they did that now? Like for say like there's like some parties in like Iron Man, right? And if you were like, oh, okay, like we're gonna do like an MCU thing, but it's set at like New Year's. You know, like Spider Man's gonna be like at New Year's Eve in New York City. You pay like 100 or 200 bucks to get into this party. It's gonna be like a rager on New Year's Eve, and you also are in the new Spider Man. I'd be like, this is sick. I definitely want to do that.
I mean, you're missing the direct comparison. Like this happened in the Fast and the Furious. Like Race Wars was this. I don't know that like today. I think today, like I think it's a different climate today. I don't know that it would have like I think, but probably like for huge like thousands of extra scenes, like I think it would probably happen. Like
They paid the extras in Race Wars, though. I'm saying, like, if you were to redo this and you do Race Wars again for a new Fast and the Furious, and they had the option of, like, us going to, like, go party.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was, like, 200 bucks, I'd be like, yeah. Like, and we get to go be in the new Fast and the Furious movie, or, like, possibly be in it. And
Right.
you're like, okay, just, you would kind of know where to stand to, like, be in the shot, and you just
Yeah.
sign an NDA and in a fucking release form, and you're good. I'd be like, yeah,
Yep.
this is awesome.
one of the most fucked up things I think I've ever seen in any movie ever is watching the guy who I guess is Tom Sizemore
Yes.
break into someone's house,
Yep.
tie her up,
Yep.
put the squid on her brain, make her experience what it's like to be raped and murdered.
But from his perspective while he's doing it to her.
Yes,
It's such
he's
a
transmitting
weird.
to her, and like it's insane. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
Like that is beyond perverted, beyond
Yep.
irredeemable. It's just like not only am I going to rape you and kill you, but you're going to feel what it's like for me to do that to you at the same time. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's terrifying. That was like a very uncomfortable, and it runs for like 3 minutes. It's like
Yeah.
a long thing, and then other people watch it, and you get everybody else's reactions from it, and
Yeah.
like from the feelings, and it gets to the point where, oh, actually, he shows it to him, to Max again, and Max is like, I lost my appetite, but I guess he was like the one that was in it, so
Because he kind of flippantly like just like, oh yeah, I lost my like he doesn't seem as shaken by it as you would expect, but you don't realize in the moment why that's the case.
yes. But the guy that's like the like hacker guy that's in the van, he gets like real fucked up about it.
Yeah, he his brain breaks.
Yeah. eventually. Yeah.
Speaking of Max at the end, the Tom Sizemore character, I think it's a very cool, like kind of an all-timer of an action move, even though this isn't necessarily an action movie.
Yes.
Where Ralph Fiennes gets stabbed in the back. And
Literally.
And they're grappling and they're fighting, and then Tom Sizemore like gets thrown off the ledge, but is holding onto
His tie.
and then Lenny takes the knife out of his back and cuts his tie, and sends Max falling to his death. And I'm like, that is so crazy,
agree.
and just it's like a Die Hard, like having the gun taped to your back, but like more specific and niche and inventive. I think it's super
Yep.
cool.
It was so cool. I can't believe that hasn't been like stolen from a bunch of other movies.
Man, it's good. It's good.
It was just like a real. I was like, oh, like once he was hanging on by his tie, I was like, is he gonna do it? And I was like, this is such a perfect shot. Like this is
Yep.
like, it's so poetic and beautiful. Like I love it. So yeah, I agree. I'm surprised. Like I said, maybe like it's one of those things that like once they did it here, it's like almost untouchable. You're like, oh, it's such a fucking genius idea. Like we can't even steal it. Like it's just too perfect. Like everybody would know that we stole it from this. Like even if it's not like widely distributed, like every like film guy would be like, "Oh, the fucking scene from Strange Days." Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot in this movie, and I think that's to the greater point about why this should be seen, but just the actual filming techniques and the plot elements and the story and everything. It's just like people should see this, because even if they don't lift things from it, just to be inspired by it, it's like, yeah, this should be seen, this should be incorporated into the grander whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
The only other note I think I have, this is a little bit of trivia, is that Lenny drives a 1997 Mercedes-Benz S500, which I only bring up because the podcast we're talking about is on. It was a prototype on loan from the manufacturer, so kind of a cool,
that is
advanced
cool.
little car that he's in. But I like the Angela Bassett Mace's bulletproof or bullet-resistant limousine. I kind of wish we had a little bit more time with that kind of perverted, sex-addicted, vision-addicted, older Asian businessman who's like got this like scheduled. He's like, no, I want to go to this fetish club. It's just like, okay, like
What's it called? It's called retinal fetish, which is like, I mean, that's also very like on the nose, but that works. It's like not even corny. It like just makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I wish we did have more time with that character.
But I guess dumping him does give us more time, one-on-one time between Lenny and Mace, and then like when they're cornered and the cops, Fichtner and D'Onofrio, douse their like shoot up the car and they don't get in, whatever. They douse it with gasoline and set it on fire, and she drives into the water. And he's like,
Also
"What are you doing?"
badass.
She's like, "Car's not on fire anymore."
It was genius. There was another one. He's like, oh fuck, it's gonna get to the gas tank and we're gonna explode. And she's like, nope, and just puts it in drive, drives off the pier, and she's like, not on fire anymore. We're good.
I think that's all the notes that I have. A lot of what I had, because this is one of those movies where I didn't take a ton of notes because I wanted to watch it and enjoy it, but
Same.
also there's so much going on that it's either like I can either take no notes or like 5 pages of notes, and I don't want to do the latter.
Yeah, I just didn't want to distract myself from viewing it. You're right. There's like a lot of interplay. It's like a longer movie, but the pace is good and there's like a lot happening. So I agree. I took a lot less notes. This is one that you gotta like experience. It's fun.
So if you can find it, I would recommend watching it.
Highly.
Write a note to your congressman, tell them to keep the USPS intact, and also to get this on streaming somewhere because it should be seen by more people.
Nice plug. I liked it.
So let's watch the trailer. This is uploaded by Worley Clarence. Like, this is again like another indication that this movie is not as widespread. Like, it's not Movie Clips Classic Trailers. It's not whatever studio distributed it. It's just Worley Clarence, which is a True Romance reference. Strange Days trailer, 1995. It's been seen by about 1 million people.
The first comment here is that Ralph Fiennes definitely reminds them of Bradley Cooper. And when I was watching this, I was like, oh, if this was remade, Bradley Cooper would be the main character in this. And I was thinking the same thing.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
I agree.
3, 2, 1, play.
20th Century Fox.
Yeah, come on, Fox. Like, let's get this out there.
Have you ever jacked in?
Have you ever
And I feel
jacked
like
in?
this is
Ready?
already beginning so techy and so but like this is what people wanted in the 90s, right? Like this is
TV, only better.
Yeah.
Johnny Mnemonic, this is Hackers, this is The Matrix, jacking in like
Of somebody's life.
It's a piece of
It's
somebody's
about the stuff that
life.
you can't have, right? The forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
Straight from the cerebral cortex. I mean, you're there, you're doing it, you're feeling it. Are you beginning to see the possibilities here?
that's the guy who
Yeah.
saw the 18-year-old taking a shower. This whole movie also takes place over a span of probably like 36 hours too. Like it's a very like
True.
December 30th and 31st and like just into midnight. Y2K.
Yep.
Oh, I have one more very, very cool bit of trivia that I'll talk to you about
What?
after this.
the
cool.
dark end of the street. How do you like it now?
He records it all. Everything.
This is cool
Who
that
gives it to you?
Angela Bassett's in so much of this trailer.
Well, she's second build, and going back to our building conversation, would lead you to believe that she's in it the second most. But like, I'm watching the movie knowing that, and like the first like 75 minutes, like probably the first half of this movie, she's like barely in.
Nope, she's not in it at all. Yeah.
This is conspiracy.
And I guess kind of as she appears, Max kind of goes away.
The issue is whether you're paranoid or not.
Yeah, that's fair.
No more games. Whatever's going on, you have to get out of here now. Get him out.
This tape is a
This
lot
trailer
more
is cut in a way that makes it seem, maybe just an era, I don't know. It makes it seem cheaper than the movie actually
All out
is.
war, and you know it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Like
can
it
see
looks,
that.
it kind of makes it look a little bit more like
A B movie.
straight to home video, yeah.
Yeah, I think it might be of the era though. I think you're right.
Anyway.
Yeah, like that's the huge party, right? That's a crazy,
Rager, yeah.
because like either we get every extra in Hollywood to be there, or like we just open up to everybody and be like, hey, $10, have a, we got bands playing,
Yeah.
whatever. Come hang out for the day, come hang out for the night, like 8 p.m. to like 4 a.m. or something.
Yeah. This part makes it look way more like an action movie than it was.
I mean, it does
Right.
kind of condense all the action into 2.5 minutes, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, it's not an action movie, but it's definitely not an action movie.
Yes. Yes. That's what I was trying to get at. It's not like an action movie like they're portraying here.
So, the coolest bit of trivia that I wanted to bring up was that at one point, Angela Bassett has Lenny against the wall, and she's like, "This is your life, and it's happening right here, right now." And that line is sampled
me
by
it's it.
Fatboy Slim.
Yes, I was gonna ask if that was it. When I heard the line, I thought that. Oh, yes. I was really hoping it was. I meant to look it up in the middle of the movie, but I was watching the movie and I was like, God, awesome. Very, very cool fact.
Because I read that before I saw it, and I was like, "That's weird." Because like I don't when I hear in my head the song, I'm like, it doesn't sound like Angela Bassett. Then as soon as she says it, I was like, oh no, that's exactly what I've heard. It's exactly what I hear in my head.
Oh, that is so cool. I can't wait to tell Rachel that one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought it when I watched it though. I really did. Trust me, I did.
Yeah.
So
All right, time for the Letterboxd game. So, for reference sake, Mad Max Fury Road has been seen by 633,000 people. I think it's been up 3,000 maybe since the last time we did it. Maybe?
yeah.
I can't keep track anymore. Strange Days, 1995, directed by Catherine Bigelow, starring Ray Fiennes, Angela Bassett, Tom Sizemore, and Juliette Lewis. Average rating of 3.6, actually 3.60 exactly. Most common rating of 4, then a 3.5, then a 3. Has been seen by how many people?
I'm gonna go. Oh God, this is a tough one. 17,000.
Gotta go higher.
Really? 32,000.
Gotta go somewhere in between. One more guess.
25,000.
28,169. So out of those 28,000 people, how many have it in their top 4?
Ooh, 8.
Way, way higher.
Way higher. Really?
Dude, this is a cult classic. That's what we're talking about. Like, people who've seen this movie love this movie.
Yeah. 23.
Way, way higher.
58, and that's it.
Way 116.
Wow! That's insane. That's a ton. That way more than I would have guessed.
People
Yep.
love Catherine Bigelow. People love
Yeah.
90s
It's deserved.
cyberpunk sci-fi.
I agree. I mean, it's deserved. Like, that's totally fine. I'm still shocked at how many it is. That's a ton. You've heard the numbers before in this game. Like, it's not. That's a lot. For a movie that you can't stream anywhere, right? Like, what the fuck?
Well, again, like, because I think the streaming element, it's the first part of it, right? Like, that number is low because you can't find it, but the people who find it love it.
Love it.
And I was almost confident, like, when we did RoboCop, I wasn't confident, but I thought it might be the possibility that when we did RoboCop, I found 2 or 3 friends who had RoboCop in their top 4. And I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if someone I follow on Letterboxd has this in their top 4. And I couldn't find one, but it, like, feels like one of those movies
Yeah.
where it's the same thing. Like, people love Point Break, people love this,
Mm-hmm.
people love Near Dark, people love Zero Dark 30. I mean, The Hurt Locker. Like, Catherine Bigelow makes badass movies, so let her do
Yeah.
more. So I found Cinema Gulp at Anxious77 on Letterboxd. This film has remained my all-time favorite for nearly 15 years, dethroning one that's held top spots such as Blank and Blank, which is still in this top 4, before it. There's much debate about the excessive use of violence in the film. To those, I remind you, this was directed by none other than Catherine Bigelow herself. To me, this film embodies everything a filmmaker should strive for. It's beautifully shot, orchestrating all different new types of camera angles, jibs, and the newly crafted Steadicam shot. The opening scene is all in POV and is enough to hook just about anyone directly into the plot. You gasp for air at least 3 times in the first 5 minutes as the film, as well as the shot. It's Howard Smith's masterful editing that glues this all together. And then he goes on and on from there.
Yeah.
5 stars.
Fair.
So
That's a
Cinema
good
Gulp,
review.
top 4. And I know that they're not movies that we have really talked about, but as number 2 and number 3 movies, the ones that I blanked out from that last review, but they're 2 movies that I have mentioned by name this episode. I probably mentioned like 30
The
or 40
Matrix.
movies. Nope. He's got 1 movie from the 80s, which is one of the movies that I've mentioned, and he's got 3 movies between 93 and 95. So Strange Days is number 1, that's 95. So he's got
Okay.
a movie at 93, a movie from 94, and a movie from 1986. And I know those don't really help you, but I'm also trying to help the people at home playing. But I've mentioned movies number 2 and number 3 in this episode. Very briefly.
Pulp
We didn't talk
Fiction?
about them, but
Pulp Fiction.
no, but close.
Reservoir Dogs.
You're equally close, but kind of not going in the right direction. Although that might make it seem wrong. No.
Which one was the one with Woody Harrelson? Lock, Stock, and Smoking Barrels?
You're talking about Natural Born Killers?
Natural Born Killers. Yes, that one.
Nope. But you're now closer to the right answer,
Interesting.
I think.
Give me
I'm pretty
another clue.
This movie was written by one of my favorite writers and has my favorite scene, or one of my favorite scenes that he's ever written. You have not seen this movie, but you know
Okay.
about it. You know that you should see it. You have not seen it yet, though. It's also my favorite movie that this guy has ever written.
Is it True Romance?
It is True Romance. And
Okay.
I just mentioned when we talked about the trailer, Worley Clarence is the uploader. The Christian Slater character in that movie is named Clarence Worley. So the guy just inverted his name, and that was his YouTube name. So we didn't talk about True Romance, but I mentioned True Romance very, very briefly. Okay.
Okay.
Number 3 is from the 80s, from 1986, I believe. Let me just confirm that. Yep, 1986, and has a direct tie to this movie.
RoboCop?
Also, this is the other one that I've mentioned this episode.
RoboCop?
No.
86. We mention it this episode.
Another action movie, but this is definitively action. It's a sequel. It's a sequel to a movie that's not action.
God.
It has been covered on this network, I think just once maybe, but like 5 movies from this franchise have been covered by this network.
5 different movies from. Is it Mad Max something?
Nope. I think there's only been 2 of those movies that have been covered on this network. So this movie was covered by The Contenders.
Okay.
The first, actually, all the movies in this franchise have been covered because HTML did their entire franchise.
Interesting.
But this movie was covered by The Contenders. The third one was covered by Mike for obvious reasons. There were 2 prequels, one of which was covered by both Charlize and by Real Bad. Nico and Kevo covered all of them for a recent run on HTML. It's an action sequel to a movie, to a horror original. You have all the
Damn,
clues,
and it's
Mr.
not-
Police.
And Charlize is in one of them.
She's in the first prequel. Yeah.
Oh, Aliens?
Aliens. Yes.
Alien.
Correct. Number
Yeah.
3. And then number 4, ooh, I don't know how to get to here for you. This is a lot of people's, this is not going to help you, but I'm going to say it's a lot of people's favorite movie of all time. 569 fans on Letterboxd, average rating of a 4. It stars a guy that I would say at one point was likely your favorite actor, or at least one of your favorite actors. Not so anymore.
Ooh, is it American Beauty?
No. It is a movie about movie making, a movie about movies from 1994. A lot of people's favorite movie.
A movie about making movies from 94.
Black and white. The guy,
Black and white.
so the star of this movie and the director of this movie worked together probably 4 or 5 times.
Is it like Clerks?
No. But you're doing much better with years today than you normally do. You were only 1 year off for RoboCop, 1 year off for Clerks. You're much more in the ballpark than normally when you're like, I don't know, like 25 years off. But no, that's actually a really good guess.
Black and white, they work together.
Actually, that's a real, like all of the clues I gave you led you to Clerks, but no, it's a wildly different movie than Clerks. Although it is a comedy also.
Okay, but it's a movie about making movie. I don't know.
Okay, so both the actor and the director, I would say many people think the best things that both of them ever did were together, and they kind of stopped working together, and their careers have both sort of gone downhill. Although the actor is best known for a franchise that he did after working with this director that has nothing to do with the director, but like movies that made billions of dollars.
Interesting. But it's a comedy, and these guys work together, and it's
He plays
in
a real
black and
person.
white.
This guy plays a real person, a real former director.
Yeah, and it's not like Disaster Artist.
No, but there's a lot spiritually in line with that.
I don't know.
Ed Wood.
Oh, okay. Ed Wood, that makes sense, yeah.
But it's Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, and everybody
Yep.
said that like their best movies are
Yep.
together, but then Johnny Depp would obviously go on to be Jack Sparrow. But yeah, so Strange Days, True Romance, Aliens, and Ed Wood. Pretty solid top 4.
Yeah, pretty solid. I like that.
Shout out Cinema Gulp, youtube.com/user/BeanJamij1. They have a YouTube channel, Cinema Gulp, so cool. All right, Joe, next week we have a double dose of Michelle Rodriguez. So earlier this lap, Haley was supposed to have Finding Nemo as part of Reef Week, one of her 2 picks this lap, because she had joined after we had last lap scheduled. What was going to be her second pick is now her first pick. It's a movie that I had never heard of until she recommended it. It's a movie starring Michelle Rodriguez, a movie called Milton's Secret, which I think came out in the last 10 years or so.
Milton's Secret. I don't know what this is at all.
It's from 2016,
Why does it have a lifetime title here?
starring Michelle Rodriguez. Yeah, I don't know. Like, when she sent the thing in, I was like, oh, this must be a memory loss movie. And I click on it, and I'm like, oh, it's a Michelle Rodriguez movie that I just never heard of.
Interesting. And this guy's really famous. Who is it? Like the main character that's like in all these pictures.
The old guy?
Yeah.
It's Donald Sutherland. That's Kiefer
Yeah.
Sutherland's dad. That's the guy. That's President
Yeah.
Snow from the Mockingjay movies, from the Hunger Games movies. Yeah, he's
Yep.
been in a bunch of stuff.
That's who I'm
I don't know what role Michelle Rodriguez plays. On Letterboxd, she's top billed, whether that means anything or not. But 11-year-old Milton Adams is growing up in an uncertain world, so maybe. So Michelle Rodriguez plays Ms. Ferguson. I'm guessing maybe a teacher. I don't know.
I'm guessing a teacher too.
Or has 87 people who have seen it on Letterboxd. I know I'm sort of spoiling that game, but I'm just like letting you know that like this is going
It's
to
low.
be a hard one to find. But it does have what's kind of cool is one of maybe the first movie that we have done this with. But there is the library subscription service called Hoopla, part of that, so you can watch it legally if your library is part of that
Hoopla
system.
enabled. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
so
cool.
that's on Tuesday. And then on Friday, we're going to talk about I want to say like the next movie from the beginning of her career that we have not talked about yet. We've mentioned it earlier this lap. We're going to talk about SWAT, which is a movie that I've not seen in forever, but I used to love. That was with her and Colin Farrell and probably a bunch of other people that I'm forgetting now. But
Yeah.
next week, Milton's Secret and then SWAT, double dose of Michelle Rodriguez as we continue Michelle Rodriguez lap. Looking forward to
Sounds
that.
good.
I've never seen or heard of, really, Milton's Secret, and I've seen SWAT,
Neither
but
have
not
I.
seen it in forever. So very cool. And then also,
Yeah.
of course, 2 episodes of Lost coming at you next week. But Joe, any other thoughts about Strange Days or any other parting wisdom, pearls of wisdom before we pack it up and come back next time?
That was a good movie. Go watch Strange Days. It's really awesome if you can find it.
And hopefully, it comes back. It's streaming somewhere. Like, it's one of those movies where, like, not every movie we cover is worth paying $4 or $6 or whatever to rent it. But, like, if this was available, I would recommend, and I know that
Yes.
you would too, to rent it.
100%.
So if it's
Yep.
available somewhere, if you can buy it used or new or whatever, go do that because it's cool and it's worth seeing.
Deals all day at Rasputin. Go
Ooh,
there.
yeah. Well, keep a lookout. For all things Too Fast, Too Forever, you go to cageclub.me, facebook.com/TooFast2Forever, or at TooFast2Forever on Twitter and Instagram. Email us, family@cageclub.me. Check out our Patreon page at TooFast2Forever.com, and come back on Tuesday for Milton's Secret. What is the secret? I guess we'll find out. I'm Joey Lewandowski,
I'm Joe too.
and we'll tell you all about it
When we see you again.